The ocean is full of mysteries and seems to go on forever. Beneath the waves are strange stories and creatures that are hard to explain. Real stories that might make you wonder how much we actually know about the deep sea. There are underwater ruins so perfectly shaped they don't seem natural. Ships have disappeared without a single clue left behind. And there's a huge, dark hole in the ocean that's still mostly unexplored. These aren't fairy tales or made-up stories. They really happened, and no one has solved them yet. Join us as we dive into some of the deep sea's most puzzling mysteries. Hidden deep within the vast South China Sea lies a place known as the Dragon Hole, the deepest blue hole on Earth. It plunges more than 1,000 feet into the unknown. Imagine yourself in the middle of the endless South China Sea, where the water stretches far and wide, glowing in shimmering shades of turquoise beneath the bright sun. At first, everything seems peaceful, almost serene. But beneath this calm surface, there lies one of the most mysterious and dangerous places on our planet, the Dragon Hole, also known locally as the Eye of the South China Sea. This immense underwater sinkhole has been surrounded by mystery for centuries. The South China Sea is a region filled with both breathtaking beauty and legends. It's home to distant islands, perilous reefs, and strange underwater formations that seem almost otherworldly. Among these, the Dragon Hole stands out, not only for its incredible size, but also because of the countless myths and stories that have grown around it. Local people have long whispered that this dark chasm is home to dragons and spirits, a place where the normal rules of nature don't seem to apply. That's where tools like Filmora have become surprisingly useful in my process. For parts of this documentary, I've been using Filmora's audio to video feature. It allows me to take a simple voice recording, like a segment of this narration, and instantly convert it into a video with visuals, captions, and even a talking avatar if I want to personalize the delivery. The process is fast, and most of it is automated through AI. You can upload audio from your computer or even directly from YouTube. Then choose your style, aspect ratio, and duration. Filmora's AI selects highlights from the audio and builds a visual sequence around it. If you're creating lessons, short explainers, or summaries, this saves a lot of time and still looks professional. You can also make edits manually afterwards using Filmora's full editing timeline. I found it especially helpful for previewing how my voiceover segments might look with visual context before I commit to a full render. If you're working with educational content or just want an easier way to turn ideas into videos, Filmora is a great option to explore. Thousands of creators are already using this to speed up their workflow. Don't get left behind, click the link in the description and start creating effortlessly with Filmora today. Sailors feared its pull and fishermen warned each other to stay far away. Yet, the Dragon Hole is real. It's not just a piece of folklore, but an actual geological wonder, a nearly bottomless pit that plunges deep into the Earth's crust. The entrance to this hole is deceptively beautiful, a perfect circle of deep blue that contrasts sharply with the bright turquoise waters surrounding it. But if you get too close, the calmness quickly fades, as the currents around the hole are unpredictable and powerful enough to drag even the most experienced sailors into its depths. For centuries, no one dared to explore it. It was a dark, unexplored void, an enigma that seemed to swallow both curiosity and courage. Then, in 2016, a group of Chinese researchers decided to face this ancient mystery. What they discovered would both astonish and puzzle scientists, leaving even more questions about this remarkable place than answers. In 2016, the Dragon Hole finally attracted the attention of scientists eager to uncover its secrets. The discovery was triggered by satellite images that revealed a massive, circular formation in the middle of the sea. A research team, armed with advanced sonar, diving equipment, and remotely operated vehicles, set out to investigate. However, exploring such a place wasn't easy. The South China Sea is far from civilization and often dangerous, and the Dragon Hole's location near the disputed Paracel Islands made the mission even more complicated. The first challenge was simply getting to the site. The research vessel anchored at a safe distance, and the team began setting up equipment to measure the hole's depth and size. What they found was incredible. At nearly 987 feet deep, the Dragon Hole was officially the deepest blue hole ever discovered, surpassing even the famous Dean's Blue Hole in the Bahamas. The hole's entrance was equally impressive, stretching over 430 feet across. It was as if nature itself had carved out a perfect trapdoor into the ocean floor. But the real mystery lay beneath the surface. The team sent a remotely operated vehicle into the depths, and the footage it captured was both haunting and mesmerizing, leaving scientists even more intrigued about what secrets the Dragon Hole might hold. The descent began in clear, sunlit waters where schools of fish swam around the entrance, seemingly unaware of the vast abyss beneath them. But as the ROV, remotely operated vehicle, descended past 300 feet, the light began to fade. By the time it reached 500 feet, the water had become completely black and the temperature dropped sharply. This was the point where life, as we know it, no longer existed. The researchers made a startling discovery, a distinct line known as the Hocene, which marked a sharp boundary between the oxygen-rich waters above and the lifeless depths below. This boundary acted as a barrier, preventing oxygen from circulating into the lower layers. As a result, the area beyond this point was completely devoid of oxygen, an environment so harsh it was almost impossible for most life forms to survive. It was like an alien world where survival seemed utterly impossible. Despite these challenges, the team pressed on. The lights from the ROV revealed jagged walls covered in layers of sediment, showing signs of the sinkhole's ancient origins. Unlike other blue holes, which have smooth, sloping bottoms, the floor of the Dragon Hole was uneven and fractured, suggesting the presence of hidden caves or tunnels. These features immediately sparked questions. Were these natural formations, or could they have been shaped by geological events, or perhaps even by ancient civilizations? At the surface, the researchers documented a variety of colorful marine life, including vibrant corals and unique species of fish that thrived in the oxygen-rich upper layers. But as the ROV descended deeper, the footage began to take on an eerie tone. The further it went, the more barren and lifeless the environment became. By the time it reached the bottom, an unsettling silence had settled in, broken only by the hum of the ROV's machinery. The Dragon Hole wasn't just a sinkhole, it was a vertical time capsule, a place that had likely remained untouched for thousands, if not millions of years. Its unique structure and conditions made it a treasure trove for scientists. The team collected water and sediment samples, hoping to analyze them for clues about the hole's history and its role in the ecosystem of the South China Sea. Yet despite all their discoveries, the Dragon Hole remained shrouded in mystery. Its great depth and inaccessibility meant that many questions were left unanswered. Could there be undiscovered life forms hidden in its darkest corners? Were there ancient artifacts or geological secrets buried beneath the sediment? The team left with more questions than answers, and the Dragon Hole continued to guard its secrets, a silent giant in the heart of the sea. The Dragon Hole isn't just a marvel of geology, it's a place that fuels curiosity and speculation. Its massive size and mysterious nature have inspired theories ranging from the scientific to the supernatural, each adding to its allure. One of the most widely discussed scientific theories is that the Dragon Hole could serve as a natural archive, preserving important information about Earth's history. Blue holes like the Dragon Hole are often created during times of glaciation when sea levels were much lower. Over time, as the water levels rose, these deep vertical sinkholes became flooded, trapping layers of sediment and microorganisms along their walls. By studying these layers, scientists can unlock secrets about ancient climates, changes in the ocean, and even mass extinction events. In other words, the Dragon Hole might serve as a record of Earth's past, written in the language of stone and sediment. But there's even more to it than that. The unique boundary between the oxygen-rich and oxygen-deprived layers of water within the Dragon Hole creates an environment that is rarely found on Earth. Researchers believe that these conditions could resemble those in ancient oceans billions of years ago, at a time when life was just beginning to form on Earth. Could the Dragon Hole hold microorganisms or chemical compounds that could reveal clues about the origins of life? It's an exciting possibility, one that could change our understanding of the planet's history. There are also geological mysteries to consider. The uneven floor of the Dragon Hole, with its jagged features and hidden crevices, has led some to wonder whether it could be connected to a larger underground network. Are there tunnels or caverns branching off from this sinkhole, extending deep into the Earth's crust? If so, what might these spaces contain? Ancient fossils, rare minerals, or perhaps even evidence of seismic activity that could shed light on the region's geological history? Of course, not all theories are strictly scientific. The Dragon Hole has gained legendary status among local fishermen, leading to countless myths and stories. Some believe it's a portal to another world, a gateway where the physical and spiritual realms meet. Others claim it's cursed, a place where boats and even people vanish without a trace. While these tales may sound far-fetched, they reflect a deep respect and fear of the unknown. One particularly intriguing idea is that the Dragon Hole could have been significant to ancient seafarers. The South China Sea has been an important trade route for many centuries, and some wonder if this hole was marked on ancient maps as a landmark or even a warning. Could it have been a sacred site, a place of ritual for those navigating these dangerous waters? Or might it be linked to the lost city of Lemuria, a mythical counterpart to Atlantis? While there's no concrete evidence to support these ideas, they add another layer of mystery to an already enigmatic place. Then there's the question of whether the Dragon Hole has claimed lives. Local legends tell of fishermen who disappeared after getting too close to the hole, their boats swallowed by its powerful currents. While there's no definitive proof of these stories, the dangers of the South China Sea are well known. Sudden storms, unpredictable tides, and even the area's magnetic pull can quickly turn a simple fishing trip into a deadly encounter. Whether fact or fiction, these stories have only contributed to the hole's eerie reputation. Despite all the theories and stories, the Dragon Hole remains a true mystery. For every question that scientists answer, new ones seem to emerge, reminding us how little we know about the oceans. The Dragon Hole isn't just a place, it's a symbol of the vast, unexplored world that lies beneath the waves. At nearly 1,000 feet deep, it stands as a testament to the power and mystery of nature. This vertical frontier challenges our understanding of the Earth. Today, the Dragon Hole remains largely unexplored. The logistical and technological challenges of studying such a remote and extreme environment mean that much of its story is still untold. Even the deepest dives and most advanced equipment have barely scratched the surface of what lies beneath. What could be waiting in the unexplored crevices at the bottom? Could there be undiscovered life forms that have adapted to the harsh conditions of the anoxic depths? Or perhaps there are geological phenomena that we've never encountered before. The possibilities are endless. Some scientists believe that blue holes, like the Dragon Hole, could be part of a vast hidden network of underwater sinkholes, all connected by secret tunnels. If this theory is true, it could change the way we understand many things, from marine life to the way water and nutrients move through the ocean. It might even offer new insights into underwater exploration. But the Dragon Hole isn't just important for what we can learn. It's also about how it makes us feel. Standing on the edge of such a deep, dark hole, you can't help but be struck by a sense of wonder and humility. It's a place where human knowledge reaches its limits, where even the most sophisticated technology struggles to uncover the secrets hidden in the shadows. For the people who live nearby, the Dragon Hole is more than just a place of scientific interest. It's something they deeply respect and even fear. This natural marvel has been a source of awe for generations. To them, it isn't just a hole in the ocean floor, it's a living symbol of the unknown. It reminds them that some mysteries are meant to remain unsolved. As scientists continue to explore the Dragon Hole, one thing is certain: its mystery will never lose its power to captivate us. Whether it's a geological time capsule, a doorway to another world, or simply one of nature's most breathtaking wonders, the Dragon Hole stands as a reminder of how much we still don't understand. In a world where so much has already been mapped and measured, it's a place that still refuses to be explained. And so, the Dragon Hole remains still and silent, keeping its secrets locked deep within. It challenges us to keep asking questions, keep exploring, and remember that no matter how much we think we know, there's always more to discover. Between the sunny shores of Miami, the mysterious island of Bermuda, and the tropical land of Puerto Rico lies a massive stretch of ocean that looks completely normal at first glance. But for many years, this area has sparked curiosity, fear, and countless wild theories. This strange region is called the Bermuda Triangle, though some people also call it the Devil's Triangle. It covers an enormous part of the Atlantic Ocean, about 500,000 square miles in size. It covers an enormous part of the Atlantic Ocean, about 500,000 square miles in size. That's an area so big it could easily fit a few countries inside it. But what makes the Bermuda Triangle so famous isn't its size or location. It's what seems to happen there. For decades, ships, airplanes, and the people inside them have disappeared without a trace. There are no mayday calls, no floating wreckage, and no bodies found. It's as if these vessels and their crews simply vanished into thin air. The silence that follows is eerie and deeply unsettling. The story of the Bermuda Triangle as we know it today began to take shape in the 1950s, but strange events in these waters go back much further. One of the earliest known disappearances happened in the year 1800. A United States Navy ship called the USS Pickering, with 90 men on board, was sailing from the Caribbean toward Delaware. Then it vanished. Despite large search efforts, not a single piece of the ship was ever found. The fate of the 90 sailors aboard remains a mystery to this very day. However, the event that truly brought the Bermuda Triangle into the spotlight happened in December of the year 1945. It was the disappearance of a group of planes known as Flight 19. That day started off like any other. 5 Navy TBM Avenger torpedo bombers took off from Fort Lauderdale in Florida for a routine training flight over the Atlantic Ocean. The lead pilot was Lieutenant Charles Taylor, an experienced flyer. The other 14 men were mostly still in training. Everything seemed normal until the pilots started to report strange problems. Lieutenant Taylor contacted the control tower, sounding confused. He said their compasses had stopped working and that nothing looked familiar. "We don't know which way is west. Everything is wrong," he said. Even the ocean below them didn't look the way it should. These were some of the last clear messages ever received from Flight 19. As the hours passed, the pilots' radio transmissions became more scrambled and harder to understand. Taylor believed they were flying over the Florida Keys, but in reality, they were likely much farther east, lost over the open Atlantic. The control tower tried everything to bring them back safely, but one by one, all 5 planes disappeared. 14 men were gone, and the nightmare didn't end there. A large rescue aircraft, a Martin Mariner flying boat, was sent to search for them. But soon after taking off, it also vanished, along with its crew of 13. That meant 27 men had disappeared in a single day without any wreckage ever found. In the years that followed, more and more ships and planes were lost in the Bermuda Triangle. In February of the year 1963, the SS Marine Sulphur Queen, a tanker carrying molten sulfur, vanished with 39 people aboard. Not even an oil slick was left behind. Then, in the year 1967, a yacht named Witchcraft disappeared just 1 mile off the coast of Miami. It had life jackets, flares, and emergency equipment. A Coast Guard boat reached the spot only 19 minutes after the distress call, but no sign of the yacht or its passengers was ever found. Stories like these, along with dozens of others, have kept the legend of the Bermuda Triangle alive. Many people have tried to explain what's happening in this strange stretch of sea. Some believe in science, others believe in the supernatural. Some theories are reasonable, while others sound like something out of a science fiction movie. One popular natural explanation involves something called methane hydrates. These are frozen gases trapped under the ocean floor. If a big bubble of methane is suddenly released, it could make the water above less dense, causing a ship to sink without warning. The ship might go down so fast that no one has time to send a signal, and if the methane rises into the air, it could possibly cause airplane engines to fail or even explode. Although this theory is interesting, scientists still haven't found solid proof that it actually caused any of the disappearances. Others say the answer might be much simpler. The Gulf Stream, a powerful ocean current, flows right through the Bermuda Triangle. It moves quickly enough to sweep away wreckage, oil slicks, and even entire ships, making it harder to find clues. The Puerto Rico Trench is one of the deepest places in the ocean, and it's so vast and deep that it could easily swallow pieces of shipwrecks forever. This area is also known for its violent weather. Powerful thunderstorms and hurricanes happen often, making it a dangerous place for sailors and pilots. The skies can turn wild in an instant, and the sea can become a raging monster without warning. One strange weather event that happens here is the waterspout, a spinning, tornado-like column of wind that forms over the ocean. These waterspouts can be strong enough to tear apart small boats and even damage larger ships. On top of that, human mistakes must also be considered. The Bermuda Triangle is full of hidden dangers, like rocky shores and underwater reefs, which have caused many shipwrecks throughout history. For aircraft flying through the region, the challenges are different, but just as serious. Some pilots have reported that their compasses start to act strangely, possibly because of magnetic forces in the area. Sudden storms can form out of nowhere, and with no land in sight, pilots can get visually confused, especially when everything below them looks the same, just endless ocean. Still, even with all these natural and human factors, they don't completely explain why so many ships and planes vanish without leaving a single piece of wreckage behind. Many times, there are no distress calls, no signs of trouble, just silence. And before disappearing, some pilots and ship captains have reported strange problems with their electronics. Radios stop working, navigation tools go haywire, and then nothing. Because of these strange clues, people have come up with some wild and fascinating theories. Some scientists and researchers think that the Bermuda Triangle might have weird rips in space and time, temporary wormholes or portals that could suck ships and planes into other places or even other dimensions. Some pilots say their instruments went crazy, that the sea below looked strange, or that the sky changed color before they lost contact. Another idea is that the area has powerful electromagnetic forces. Interestingly, this region is one of the rare places on Earth where magnetic north and true north line up perfectly. This could mess with a ship's compass or an airplane's navigation system, possibly causing them to lose their way completely. Then, there are the even more mysterious theories. Some believe that aliens might be involved. They suggest that the Bermuda Triangle is home to an underwater alien base or a portal used to collect human technology, and even humans. They point to stories of strange lights seen in the sky, or weird flying objects spotted just before a plane disappeared. An even wilder idea connects the triangle to the lost city of Atlantis. According to this theory, the ancient Atlanteans had advanced technology that still works today, even though the civilization vanished thousands of years ago. Some say huge crystal pyramids have been seen on the ocean floor in the area, believed to be part of a powerful energy system that might affect passing ships and planes. What makes all this even more eerie is that many of these disappearances happen during calm weather, with skilled, experienced crews and on well-maintained vessels. There was no sign of a struggle, no emergency signal, just a sudden vanishing, as if something struck too fast or somehow stopped anyone from sending out a warning. But despite all the legends and strange stories, official organizations remain skeptical. The United States Coast Guard and major insurance companies don't consider the Bermuda Triangle to be especially dangerous. Experts who study the numbers say that, considering how many ships and planes pass through the region, the number of accidents isn't really higher than in any other busy part of the ocean. In fact, Lloyd's of London, one of the world's oldest and most trusted maritime insurers, doesn't charge higher fees for vessels traveling through the Bermuda Triangle. To them, the area isn't riskier than anywhere else. Because of this, many skeptics argue that the Bermuda Triangle mystery is more about fascinating tales and human imagination than real danger. Over the years, many pilots and ship captains have shared strange and mysterious stories about their experiences while traveling through the area known as the Bermuda Triangle. Some of them say their compasses suddenly started spinning out of control, making it impossible to know which direction they were going. Others report that all of their electronic equipment stopped working at the exact same time. There are even stories about thick, eerie fogs that appear out of nowhere, wrapping everything in a ghostly mist. But perhaps the most puzzling of all are the tales where time itself seems to act strangely, where trips that should have taken hours were over in just minutes, or journeys dragged on far longer than they should have based on the usual speed and distance. One of the most well-known accounts comes from a man named Bruce Jernan. In the year 1970, he was flying his small plane over the Bermuda Triangle when something very unusual happened. According to Bruce, he and his father were flying on a clear day when they entered a strange, tunnel-shaped cloud. Inside that tunnel, the world seemed to change. He said it felt like the usual rules of time and space no longer applied. Everything around them went grey and blurry, and their instruments began acting up. When they finally flew out of the cloud, Bruce was shocked. He realized he had traveled the distance of a 30-minute flight in just a few minutes, and he wasn't anywhere near where he was supposed to be. The plane had somehow jumped far ahead of schedule, as if it had been pulled through space by an invisible force. Sailors have told similar stories. Some say that sudden storms have appeared out of nowhere and vanished just as quickly, like something out of a dream. Others report seeing strange lights hovering above the ocean, only for them to disappear without a trace. These reports might sound like something from a science fiction story, and some people think they are just the result of confusion or mistakes. But what makes them interesting is how often the same details show up in stories told by people who never met each other and had no way of sharing their experiences. The United States Navy says officially that the Bermuda Triangle is no more dangerous than any other part of the ocean. According to them, any risks in the area are just the usual ones that come with traveling across open sea. However, some documents that have been made public show that the Navy has studied strange magnetic activity in the region. There are also records of Navy ships experiencing mysterious problems with their instruments while passing through these waters. The most reasonable way to think about the Bermuda Triangle mystery might be to accept that many different things could be happening at once. The area's unique shape, its unpredictable weather, the possibility of equipment breaking, human mistakes, and maybe even natural forces we haven't discovered yet, all of these could come together to create the perfect recipe for strange and unexplained events. What we do know for sure is that the Bermuda Triangle has captured people's imagination for many years. It remains one of the great unsolved mysteries of modern times. Even now, in an age when satellites watch the entire planet and GPS can find almost any location down to the last meter, the Triangle reminds us that there are still places in the world where our machines can fail and people can vanish without a trace. One day, science might uncover the truth about what really happens in the Bermuda Triangle. It might turn out to be nothing more than a mix of natural dangers and human errors, misunderstood and exaggerated over many years. Or maybe we'll find that there is something truly unusual in those waters, something we don't yet understand. Until that day comes, the Bermuda Triangle remains a chilling reminder. It shows us that even with all our modern technology, there are still parts of the Earth where mystery rules, and where the power of the sea and sky can still humble us. Imagine a city full of energy, with busy streets teeming with merchants, towering temples reaching for the sky, and boats smoothly navigating through a network of canals. Then, one day, it disappears, swallowed by the sea and lost to time for more than 1,000 years. This is the story of Heracleion, an ancient city off the coast of Egypt. For centuries, its very existence was debated. Was it real, or just a story passed down through generations? But in the year 2000, archaeologists made an astonishing discovery. The city of Heracleion was not only real, but it had been lying beneath the Mediterranean Sea all this time. How did it end up there? What secrets does it hold? And what can we learn from its story about the delicate balance between civilization and nature? The story of Heracleion begins as a whisper in the ancient records of history. For centuries, it was more of a myth than a real place, mentioned by Greek historians such as Herodotus. They described a thriving city at the mouth of the Nile, a bustling center of trade and culture. Known by two names, Thonis to the Egyptians and Heracleion to the Greeks, this city was said to be of great importance. According to these accounts, Heracleion was a gateway to Egypt, where Mediterranean merchants would dock their ships, pay tribute to the gods, and prepare for their journey into the great kingdom beyond. Heracleion wasn't just an ordinary city. It was a place of incredible wealth and power, full of grand temples, lively markets, and busy harbors. One of the most famous landmarks was a massive temple dedicated to Amun-Gab, a god worshipped by both Egyptians and Greeks. Herodotus claimed that this temple was the heart of the city, where priests performed sacred rituals and citizens gathered to honor their gods. But even as Heracleion flourished, it was veiled in mystery. Ancient texts spoke of a city built on unstable ground, where the land itself seemed to tremble beneath the weight of its magnificent buildings. Some mentioned floods and rising waters threatening to engulf the city. Others described earthquakes that shook the Nile Delta, sending shockwaves through the city's temples and homes. These stories of instability seemed to warn of a tragic end. By the Middle Ages, Heracleion had vanished. Its name disappeared from maps, its streets forgotten. For centuries, scholars debated whether it had ever existed at all. Some believed it was a myth, a tale woven by ancient storytellers. Others argued that it had been destroyed by natural disasters or buried under layers of silt carried by the Nile. Then there was the sea. Over the years, the Mediterranean had slowly crept inland, swallowing large parts of the Egyptian coast. If Heracleion had once existed, some believed it might now lie hidden beneath the waves, a lost city drowned by the ocean. Yet, with no clear evidence, the story of Heracleion remained a mystery, locked away in the past until the dawn of the 21st century. In the year 2000, a French underwater archaeologist named Franck Goddio embarked on a daring mission to uncover the hidden mysteries of Egypt's ancient coastline. Armed with cutting-edge sonar and magnetic imaging technology, Goddio and his team set out to map the seabed near the city of Alexandria. Their mission was ambitious, an attempt to discover something that might not even exist. What they uncovered, however, would change history forever. Beneath 30 feet of murky water, buried under layers of silt and sand, lay the ruins of Heracleion. It was real, and its discovery was more incredible than anyone could have ever imagined. Picture yourself descending into the depths of the Mediterranean Sea. As you sink lower, the sunlight fades, and the water grows colder and darker. Visibility becomes poor, and the seabed is hidden beneath thick layers of mud and debris. Then, just when hope seems lost, you spot something, a glimpse of ancient ruins. What once were grand structures now rest on the ocean floor, waiting to be rediscovered. For Frank Gaudio and his team, the discovery of Heracleion felt like stepping into a time machine. As they carefully excavated the site, a picture of this long-lost city slowly began to take shape. The first objects they uncovered were massive statues. Despite having been submerged for centuries, many of these statues still stood with remarkable detail. Some towers over 16 feet tall, their stone faces staring silently into the dark waters. These statues, carved from granite, had once adorned the city's temples and public spaces. Now they lay scattered across the seabed, toppled by whatever force had destroyed the city. The team also uncovered evidence of Heracleion's extensive canal system. Unlike most ancient cities, Heracleion wasn't built on solid land. It was built on a series of islands connected by waterways, much like the city of Venice. These canals allowed ships to navigate through the city, bringing goods from all across the Mediterranean and beyond. Stone anchors, fragments of boats, and mooring rings found at the site hinted at the city's important role as a bustling port, a place where trade and travel converged. One of the most remarkable discoveries was the remains of the Temple of Amun-Gerb, the city's spiritual center. This temple had been a sacred place for both the Egyptians and the Greeks, where pilgrims came to honor the gods before embarking on their journeys. The archaeologists uncovered towering columns, intricate carvings, and ceremonial artifacts, including gold amulets and offerings. The scale and craftsmanship of the temple were astounding, showcasing Heracleion's wealth and religious significance. But Heracleion wasn't just a religious hub, it was also a thriving commercial center. Among the ruins, the team found coins, weights, and shipping logs, evidence of the city's bustling economy. These artifacts revealed that Heracleion had been a crossroads of trade, where goods like gold, spices, and textiles flowed between Egypt and the Mediterranean world. The city's markets must have been a vibrant sight, filled with merchants and goods from distant lands. Perhaps most striking of all were the remnants of everyday life. Archaeologists uncovered household items such as pottery, tools, and even food containers, preserved in the sediment that had once buried the city. These objects offered a glimpse into the lives of the people who had once called Heracleion home, fishermen, traders, and families who lived their lives in this bustling, vibrant city. As the archaeologists continued their work, they discovered more clues about the city's downfall. The ruins showed signs of subsidence, meaning that the ground beneath the city had gradually sunk over time. Combined with rising sea levels and the shifting coastline, this process may have caused the city to slowly sink into the sea. Some evidence suggested a catastrophic event, such as an earthquake or a tsunami, might have delivered the final blow, causing Heracleion to vanish beneath the waves. Yet for all the answers the ruins provided, many questions remained. What exactly caused the city to sink? How did its people react as the waters rose around them? And what other secrets still lie beneath the seabed, waiting to be uncovered? The rediscovery of Heracleion was not just an archaeological triumph, it was a window into the past, a powerful reminder of how civilizations can rise and fall at the mercy of nature's forces. As Frank Gaudio and his team pieced together the story of this lost city, they revealed not only its grandeur, but also its vulnerability, a confirmation to the fragile balance between human ambition and the relentless power of the natural world. The rediscovery of Heracleion offered stunning insights into its existence, but it also sparked widespread speculation about how such a significant city could vanish beneath the waves. While archaeological evidence provides some clues, the precise events that led to Heracleion's downfall remain a mystery. One of the most widely accepted explanations for the fall of Heracleion is that it sank into the soft, waterlogged ground of the Nile Delta where the city was built. The delta is made up of unstable sediment, which isn't the best foundation for heavy stone buildings. Over time, the weight of the city's structures, combined with the natural settling of the soil, may have caused the ground to slowly sink. Archaeologists have found clear signs of this sinking at the site, such as tilted foundations and collapsed walls. At first, this gradual sinking would have been almost impossible to notice, But over the decades, it caused more and more of the city to disappear underwater. Another contributing factor to the city's decline was the rising Mediterranean Sea. Between the peak of Heracleon's glory and its eventual fall, sea levels in the region rose a great deal. This slow but unstoppable rise of the water would have flooded the city's low-lying areas and eroded its infrastructure, leaving it more vulnerable to disaster. However, some researchers believe that Heracleion didn't simply fade away due to the sinking land and rising waters. They think the city might have been hit by a catastrophic event like an earthquake or tsunami. The eastern Mediterranean is known for being seismically active, and ancient records mention powerful earthquakes that shook the region. A major earthquake could have made the already unstable ground beneath Heracleion even weaker, causing buildings to collapse and parts of the city to sink. Tsunamis are another possibility. An undersea earthquake could have displaced enough water to create giant waves, flooding the city and sweeping away its structures. Similar tsunami deposits have been found in other parts of the Mediterranean, so it's possible that Heracleion was one of the cities affected by such a disaster. Beyond natural causes, there are other, more unusual theories. Heracleion was an important religious and cultural center, which has led some to suggest that its destruction might have had a spiritual or divine reason. Ancient inscriptions discovered at the site mention rituals and offerings made to appease the gods, possibly to avoid disasters. Could the city's destruction have been seen as divine punishment? While there's no direct evidence to support this theory, it certainly adds a fascinating layer to the story. Another mystery surrounding Heracleion is why it disappeared from history after it sank. For over 1,000 years, the city was forgotten, its memory fading away. Was it simply because the city was no longer accessible, or could there have been an intentional effort to erase it from historical records? Some scholars believe that Heracleon's fall coincided with shifts in political or religious power, which caused other cities, like Alexandria, to overshadow its story. The fact that it took over 1,000 years to rediscover the city raises important questions about how easily history can be lost and how much of it might still be buried beneath the sea. Perhaps the most intriguing mystery is what we still don't know about Heracleion. The underwater ruins cover an area of more than 40 square miles, and much of it remains unexplored. What secrets could still be hidden in the mud and silt? Could there be undiscovered artifacts, inscriptions, or even entire sections of the city waiting to be uncovered? The possibilities are endless, and each new discovery could change everything we know about this ancient metropolis. The rediscovery of Heracleion wasn't just an archaeological achievement, it was a moment that brought the past back to life. For over 1,000 years, the city had been buried beneath layers of sediment and water, reduced to little more than a legend. But thanks to Frank Gaudio and his team, Heracleion has resurfaced, offering us a glimpse into a lost world. The ruins themselves are a confirmation to the skill and resilience of the people who built them. Even though it was submerged for centuries, many of the structures and objects in Heracleion remain surprisingly well preserved. The enormous statues of gods and pharaohs carved from granite still show the fine details of their original designs. The inscriptions on stone tablets and stelae give us a glimpse into the city's religious practices and how it was governed. Gold amulets and ceremonial items reveal the city's wealth and its importance in the culture of the time. However, uncovering Heracleion isn't just about finding ancient artifacts, it's about the stories they reveal. The city's layout, with its canals, harbors, and temples, shows a society that was deeply connected to both the natural world and the spiritual realm. The discovery of shipping records and trade weights highlights Heracleon's crucial role as a link between Egypt and the Mediterranean, a place where different cultures met and goods moved freely. Each artifact, from the grandest statue to the smallest piece of pottery, offers a glimpse into the lives of the people who once lived there. The rediscovery of Heracleion has also brought new attention to underwater archaeology. The techniques used to locate and dig up the city, like sonar mapping, magnetic imaging, and careful underwater excavation, have set new standards for exploring submerged sites. Today, Heracleion is considered one of the most important underwater discoveries of the 21st century, inspiring efforts to find other lost cities and civilizations. But Heracleion's story isn't just about the past, it's also a reminder of how fragile human civilizations can be. The same forces that caused the city to sink, rising seas, unstable ground, and natural disasters, are still affecting us today. As we face the challenges of climate change and environmental instability, Heracleion's rise and fall serves as a warning about the delicate balance between human ambition and the power of nature. Today, Heracleion's ruins remain underwater, carefully protected as an archaeological site. Divers continue to explore its depths, uncovering new pieces of its history each year. For those who visit the site or see its artifacts in museums, Heracleion is more than just a lost city. It's a symbol of discovery, resilience, and the ongoing mystery of human history. As we leave Heracleion's waters behind, one question lingers. What other lost worlds lie beneath the sea, waiting to be uncovered? Heracleion's story reminds us that history is always alive, buried deep in the earth and the oceans, waiting for someone to bring it to light. Hidden under calm blue waters lies the ancient city of Pavlo Petri, a place lost to time, but not to legend. Unlike the mythical island of Atlantis, which people have searched for but never found, Pavlo Petri is very real, and it's truly special. This sunken city is older than even the pyramids of Egypt. In fact, it's the oldest underwater city that has ever been discovered. Even after more than 5,000 years, much of it still stands. Streets, buildings, open courtyards, all perfectly preserved. It gives us a rare and amazing chance to look into a world that once thrived long, long ago. Far down in the southern part of Greece, where rough coastlines meet the wide, sparkling waters of the Mediterranean Sea, there is a place called the Peloponnesian Peninsula. This land has always been full of stories, tales of gods and heroes, great wars, and ancient ruins. For thousands of years, it has been a place where history and legend mix together. But not all of its stories lie on land. Beneath the surface of the Laconian Gulf, hidden under the sea for thousands of years, lies one of the most amazing archaeological finds of modern times, the ancient city of Pavlo Petri. For generations, local fishermen told quiet stories about strange shapes they sometimes saw under the crystal-clear water. Some said they caught glimpses of stone walls or shadows that looked like buildings. But in Greece, a land filled with ruins, this didn't seem unusual. People didn't pay much attention. After all, ruins were everywhere. Who would have thought that these shadows were actually the remains of a city even older than classical Greece? A city that existed before the Great Pyramids were ever built. Everything changed in the year 1967. That year, a British oceanographer named Nicholas Fleming was doing underwater research near a small beach called Pavlo Petri. At the time, the science of underwater archaeology was just getting started. Divers had basic gear and no advanced technology like sonar or three-dimensional mapping. Fleming wasn't searching for a lost city, he was simply studying the sea floor. But while diving in the shallow waters near the beach, he saw something strange. Just a few meters below the surface, he noticed shapes that didn't look natural. They looked man-made, like walls, roads, and buildings. Fleming had accidentally come across what looked like the skeleton of an ancient town, swallowed long ago by the sea. It was an incredible discovery, but the true importance of what he had found didn't become clear until the next year. In 1968, a team of archaeologists from the University of Cambridge arrived to study the site more closely. As they began their work, they realized this was not just a handful of ruins. It was an entire city, carefully designed and surprisingly well preserved. What shocked them even more was the age of the site. At first, they thought it dated back to around 1,000 years before Christ, during the Late Bronze Age. But as they dug deeper and learned more, they discovered something even more incredible. The city of Pavlo Petri was much, much older. Their studies revealed that Pavlo Petri had been built at least as far back as 3,000 years before the Common Era. That meant the city was over 5,000 years old, making it the oldest known underwater city in the world. What makes Pavlo Petri even more extraordinary is how well it has been preserved, unlike other ancient cities that have been worn down by time, looted, or destroyed by human activity. Pavlo Petri has been shielded by the sea, with its streets, buildings, and tombs remaining nearly untouched, just as they were thousands of years ago. This offers us a rare and fascinating view into a world long lost to history. Diving beneath the waters over Pavlo Petri is like stepping into a time machine. Just 3 to 4 meters below the surface, the city unfolds before you in breathtaking clarity. Its layout remains as though the people had only recently walked away, offering archaeologists and divers an otherworldly experience. Walking down streets that haven't felt human footsteps in over 5,000 years is nothing short of astonishing. The city itself is remarkably well organized, showcasing the brilliance of its builders. Its narrow, straight streets intersect at right angles, forming a grid-like pattern that modern city planners would recognize. At the heart of Pavlo Petri lies a central plaza, a vast open space that might have once served as a marketplace or a place for people to gather. Surrounding the plaza are clusters of buildings, some small and simple, probably homes or workshops, while others are larger and more complex, possibly serving public or administrative purposes. Archaeologists have uncovered at least 15 structures, though they believe many more are still hidden beneath layers of sand and sediment. These buildings were not built haphazardly. They were carefully planned, with an understanding of both engineering and design. Thick stone walls, some several feet thick, outline each structure. Inside, there are remnants of hearths, storage spaces, and even drainage systems, offering evidence that this ancient society valued sanitation and resource management. The most captivating discoveries are the burial sites scattered throughout the city. These tombs, filled with pottery, tools, and other artifacts, give us a glimpse into the daily lives of the people who lived there, their diets, their trades, and even their artistic expressions. The pottery is especially valuable, decorated with detailed patterns and symbols. It reveals much about the culture and beliefs of the people and hints at connections with other civilizations. Some designs suggest trade with distant lands, indicating that Pavlo Petri was part of a larger network of commerce during the Bronze Age. But Pavlo Petri was not just a city of homes and markets, it was a bustling maritime hub. The discovery of large stone anchors and slipways used for launching boats points to a society deeply connected to the sea. Its location, nestled in a sheltered bay with easy access to the open Mediterranean, made it an ideal port for trade. Archaeologists believe that Pavlo Petri played a crucial role in the exchange of goods, ideas, and culture during the Bronze Age, acting as a link between the civilizations of the Aegean, the Near East, and beyond. As research continues, more evidence of this maritime activity has been uncovered. Tools and artifacts found in the city suggest that the inhabitants were skilled sailors and shipbuilders, able to navigate the unpredictable waters of the Mediterranean. The city's proximity to natural resources, such as timber for shipbuilding and fertile land for farming, would have made it a thriving center of trade and industry. However, despite its advanced design and prosperity, Pavlo Petri was not immune to the forces of nature. The city's ideal location for trade also made it vulnerable to the very element it depended on, the sea. Over time, rising water levels and geological activity gradually swallowed the city, submerging it beneath the waves. Today, as we walk through the submerged ruins of Pavlo Petri, it's easy to imagine the vibrant life that once filled its streets. Children playing in the plaza, merchants shouting prices, and sailors preparing for long journeys. This was a city that lived and breathed, one that thrived at the edge of the known world. Yet, Like so many other ancient civilizations, it was eventually claimed by the forces of nature, leaving behind only whispers of its story. Pavlo Petri is more than just a city. It's a time capsule, a snapshot of the Bronze Age, frozen beneath the sea. Its discovery has reshaped our understanding of ancient history, offering a rare and invaluable glimpse into a world long lost to the depths. But even as we uncover more about Pavlo Petri, many questions remain. Who were the people who built this city? What role did it play in the ancient world? And what secrets still lie buried beneath the sand and water? The discovery of Pavlo Petri has given archaeologists an unprecedented opportunity to explore the Bronze Age. The city's streets, buildings, and artifacts paint a vivid picture of a thriving, interconnected society. Yet, despite all that has been learned, questions still surround its ultimate fate. Why did a city so well built and so advanced for its time vanish beneath the waves? The answers remain as elusive as the city itself, at the heart of the mystery that surrounds Pavlo Petri. One of the most widely accepted ideas about what happened to Pavlo Petri is that it was destroyed by natural forces beyond its control. The area around the Laconian Gulf, where Pavlo Petri was located, is known for being geologically unstable. Earthquakes happen often, and the land's closeness to tectonic fault lines means that even small shifts in the Earth could have huge consequences. A strong earthquake might have caused parts of the city to collapse, making the buildings unstable and forcing the people to leave their homes. Over time, the land might have slowly sunk because of repeated earthquakes, leaving Pavlo Petri exposed to the rising sea. Another factor that likely played a role was the rising sea levels during the late Bronze Age. Evidence from the Earth shows that the Mediterranean Sea slowly rose during this period. But this wasn't a gradual process over many years. It was caused by a series of sudden floods, likely triggered by a changing climate. Pavlo Petri, which was only just above sea level, may have been especially vulnerable to this. The people living there may have tried to protect their city by building seawalls or raising their homes, but these efforts would have been no match for the unstoppable rise of the water. There's also a theory that it was a combination of earthquakes and flooding that led to the city's downfall. Imagine a busy port city, alive with activity, suddenly struck by a strong earthquake. Buildings fall, the ground shifts, and the coastline begins to sink. Soon, rising waters flood the city, leaving only ruins behind. Over time, sand and dirt cover the remains, keeping them preserved for thousands of years until they are rediscovered by modern archaeologists. But the mystery of how Pavlo Petri was lost is just part of the story. The real question is why it disappeared. What was Pavlo Petri's role in the ancient world, and what can its fate teach us about the people who lived there? Some archaeologists believe that Pavlo Petri was an important part of the Minoan civilization, one of the earliest and most advanced cultures of the Bronze Age. The Minoans were known for their grand palaces, vibrant art, and wide-reaching trade networks. They were also pioneers of sea travel. If Pavlo Petri was indeed a Minoan settlement, its disappearance might be tied to the fall of the Minoan civilization around the year 1000 BCE. The Minoans faced many disasters, including volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, and invasions from other groups, and Pavlo Petri may have been abandoned as the Minoan world fell apart. Others believe that Pavlo Petri was a smaller, more local settlement, part of a larger network of city-states along the Greek coast. If this is the case, its disappearance might have been due to more everyday reasons like economic troubles, a lack of resources, or a change in trade routes. Perhaps the harbor became filled with silt, making it harder for ships to reach, or maybe the city's strategic importance faded over time. What we do know for sure is that Pavlo Petri's story is one of both strength and vulnerability. It was a city designed to live in harmony with the sea, but in the end, it was overtaken by the very waters that once supported it. As researchers continue to explore the site, new discoveries might help us understand what happened to the city. But for now, Pavlo Petri remains an exciting mystery, an ancient city that challenges what we know about the past. Today, Pavlo Petri lies just beneath the sea, a quiet reminder of the brilliance and creativity of its builders. For centuries it was forgotten, hidden beneath the water and untouched by human hands. But thanks to modern technology and the hard work of archaeologists, the city has once again come into the light, both literally and figuratively. One of the biggest advancements in the study of Pavlo Petri has been the use of 3D mapping and underwater imaging, which has allowed us to learn more about the city and its secrets. In the early 2010s, a group of researchers joined forces with the Greek Ministry of Culture to create a detailed digital model of the ancient city of Pavlo Petri. Using advanced sonar technology and photogrammetry, they were able to map the site in a way never done before, revealing hidden features that had been buried for thousands of years. The images they produced are stunning, showing the city's streets, buildings, and even individual stone slabs with incredible clarity. This digital mapping effort has allowed archaeologists to study Pavlo Petri without disturbing its delicate remains. Unlike traditional excavation, which often involves removing artifacts and structures, digital mapping preserves the site exactly as it is. This means that future generations can continue to explore and learn from it, keeping the site intact for years to come. But Pavlo Petri is more than just an archaeological site. It's also a cultural treasure. Local communities have embraced the city as a symbol of their heritage, working hard to protect and promote it. Efforts are currently underway to have Pavlo Petri recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a prestigious title that would help ensure its preservation for the future. The rediscovery of Pavlo Petri has also sparked renewed interest in underwater archaeology. Inspired by this ancient city, researchers have begun exploring other submerged sites across the world, from sunken harbors in the Mediterranean to lost temples in Southeast Asia. Pavlo Petri has become a shining example for those seeking to uncover the secrets of the past, proving that even forgotten places still hold incredible stories waiting to be told. Yet, despite its significance today, Pavlo Petri remains shrouded in mystery. Who were the people who built it? Why did they choose such a vulnerable location for such an advanced city? What can we learn from their successes and their mistakes? Pavlo Petri's story is far from finished. As technology continues to advance, so too will our understanding of this ancient city. For now, it stands as a reminder of the delicate relationship between humanity and nature, a relationship that has shaped our history and will continue to influence our future. As we leave Pavlo Petri behind, it's important to reflect on its legacy. This was a city that flourished for thousands of years, a place where people lived, worked, and dreamed. While its buildings may have been lost to the sea, its story remains, an enduring tale of resilience, innovation, and the lasting power of human civilization. Let's now journey to the wide open waters of the Pacific Ocean, where an entirely different mystery unfolded. It's the tale of the MV Joyita, a ship that vanished without a trace, only to reappear weeks later, abandoned and surrounded by unanswered questions. In October 1955, the MV Joyita set off from Samoa on what was supposed to be a simple, routine voyage. The ship, once a luxurious private yacht, had been repurposed as a dependable workhorse, traveling between islands in the South Pacific, carrying passengers and cargo. But when the Joyita failed to reach its destination, a massive search effort was launched. Weeks later, the ship was found drifting over 600 miles off course, completely empty, with no crew, no passengers, and no explanation for its strange fate. What had happened aboard the MV Joyita? Why did its crew disappear, and why was the ship left to wander the sea like a ghost? This is the haunting mystery that still surrounds the Joyita. In the early 1950s, the South Pacific was a vast and isolated region made up of tiny islands connected by trade routes that spanned thousands of miles of open ocean. For the people living on these remote islands, the sea was more than just a means of survival. It was their highway, their livelihood, and sometimes their biggest danger. And in the middle of this expansive blue ocean was the MV Joyita, a ship with a rich and mysterious history. Originally built in the year 1931 as a luxurious private yacht for a Hollywood director, the Joyita, meaning Little Jewel in Spanish, was once the epitome of elegance and glamour. But by the 1940s, its heyday had come to an end. During World War II, the ship was repurposed by the United States Navy and used as a military patrol boat. After the war, it was sold to private owners, who turned it into a humble yet dependable merchant vessel. While it no longer had the glamorous appeal it once did, the Joyita gained a reputation as a tough, seaworthy ship. By the year 1955, the Joyita belonged to Captain Thomas "Dusty" Miller, a seasoned British sailor with decades of experience navigating the Pacific Ocean. Captain Miller was well known and respected, having earned a deep understanding of the ocean's dangers and unpredictable nature. If anyone could navigate the treacherous waters safely, it was him. On October 3, 1955, the Joyita set sail from the port of Apia in Samoa, bound for the Tokelau Islands, approximately 270 miles to the north. The voyage was expected to be routine and take no more than 2 days. On board were 25 people, 9 crew members, 16 passengers, and a cargo of medical supplies, food, timber, and other goods destined for the isolated islands. Among the passengers was Dr. Alfred Dennis, a respected doctor traveling to Tokelau to perform surgery, his presence highlighting the critical importance of the voyage. In remote areas like these, access to medical care was scarce, often making the difference between life and death. Spirits were high as the Joyita left Apia, with calm weather and steady seas. There was no sign that anything would go wrong. However, as the hours turned into days, something strange occurred. The Joyita never reached the Tokelau Islands. Initially, radio operators assumed the ship was delayed due to a minor mechanical issue or navigational mistake, which were common in the South Pacific. However, by the 3rd day, worry began to set in. The ship's radio had gone silent, and there was still no sign of the Joyita. Word of the disappearance quickly spread, and a massive search operation began. Planes and ships scoured thousands of square miles of open ocean between Samoa and the Tokelau Islands, but they found nothing. Not a trace of debris, no distress signals, and no sign of the missing vessel. It was as if the Joyita had vanished, swallowed by the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean. Then, 5 weeks later, on November 10th, 1955, the mystery took a chilling turn. A merchant vessel, navigating the waters near Fiji, spotted something unusual in the distance. At first, it appeared to be an ordinary piece of flotsam, a dark shape floating on the waves. But as the crew drew closer, they realized it was the missing Joyita, adrift and abandoned over 600 miles from its intended course. The sight was eerie. The once unsinkable ship was now listing heavily to one side, with part of its deck submerged beneath the water. Despite the damage, the Joyita was still afloat, a confirmation to its strong cedarwood construction. But where were the crew and passengers? The ship was eerily silent, with no sign of life on board. When rescuers boarded the vessel, the scene they encountered was even more unsettling. The Joyita looked like a ghost ship. Its interior was in chaos, with cargo scattered across the deck. Boxes of medical supplies had been opened, and blood-stained bandages were found on the deck, but there was no explanation for their use. The lifeboats and life rafts were missing, along with personal belongings and the ship's navigational equipment. In the main cabin, the radio was tuned to the international distress frequency, but its antenna had been damaged, making it useless. Rescuers noted that in its current condition, the radio could only reach a range of about 2 miles, making it impossible for anyone on board to call for help. Adding to the mystery, the clock in the cabin had stopped at 10:25, as though it had frozen at the exact moment something went horribly wrong. The ship's engines posed another puzzle. The main engine was out of service, and the auxiliary engine, a smaller backup, was covered with blankets. suggesting someone had tried to protect it from damage. Despite these issues, the ship was still seaworthy. It wasn't sinking, and there was no immediate danger to anyone on board. Yet for reasons unknown, the crew and passengers had abandoned the Joyita. What had happened to them? Why had they left the ship, and what had led to its eerie, unexplained abandonment? The mystery of the Joyita remains unsolved to this day, leaving only questions in its wake. The ship's logs were gone, along with any documents that could have explained what happened. All that rescuers found were bits and pieces of a mystery. An empty ship, signs of a quick departure, and no clue as to where the crew and passengers had gone. As the Joyita was towed back to port, the questions grew even bigger. What could have caused the crew to leave a ship that was still floating? Why did they take the lifeboats but leave behind important supplies like food and water? And why was the ship so far off its intended course, drifting aimlessly in the middle of the Pacific Ocean? The discovery of the MV Joyita left investigators with a flood of unanswered questions. It wasn't just the eerie sight of an empty, drifting ship, it was the endless mysteries. What could have made 25 people abandon a perfectly seaworthy vessel? And why did they disappear without leaving behind a single trace? One popular theory is that mechanical failure played a role. The Joyita was not in perfect condition when it left Samoa. The ship's main engine was known to be unreliable, and some reports suggested that a leaking pipe caused water to build up in the hull, making the ship appear as though it was sinking. Fearing the worst, the crew might have panicked and believed the ship was about to go under, leading them to abandon it. But here's the problem. The Joyita wasn't sinking. Its sturdy cedarwood construction made it highly buoyant, even if it had taken on water. Abandoning such a strong vessel would have been a last resort, yet the lifeboats were missing, which means the crew didn't plan to stay on board. Another possibility is that the crew simply misjudged the situation. The South Pacific is known for its powerful, unpredictable currents, and if the Joyita had been taking on water even for a short time, the ship might have tilted enough to make the crew believe it was doomed. But if the lifeboats had been used, why weren't they found? Did they drift too far out of the search area, or was something else, something more sinister, responsible for preventing anyone from surviving? There's also the theory of foul play. The Joyita was carrying valuable cargo, including medical supplies, which could have made it a target for pirates. While the South Pacific waters weren't lawless, piracy still existed in the 1950s. Could the crew and passengers have been attacked, forced overboard, or even taken captive? This theory gains strength when considering the missing personal items and navigational equipment. If pirates had boarded the ship, they might have taken anything valuable before leaving it behind. However, there was no sign of a struggle, so piracy remains nothing more than speculation. One of the more chilling theories is that the Joyita was struck by a rogue wave, an enormous wall of water capable of capsizing ships. Rogue waves are rare but extremely destructive, and some believe such a wave might have hit the Joyita, flooding the deck and forcing the crew to abandon ship. But when the ship was found, it was still afloat, making this explanation difficult to believe. Why would the crew abandon a ship that was still capable of surviving such an event? Then there are the stranger theories. Some suggest the crew encountered something unexplainable, a terrifying phenomenon that made them flee. Tales of ghost ships and sea monsters have haunted maritime lore for centuries. While there's no evidence to support these ideas, they speak to the deep fear of the unknown that has always surrounded the sea. The Pacific Ocean is vast and full of secrets, and the idea that the Joyita might have encountered something beyond our understanding is still a possibility we can't easily dismiss. There's also the haunting thought that we may never truly know what happened. The ocean is an unforgiving place, capable of erasing all evidence in the blink of an eye. Whether the crew succumbed to thirst, storms, or even internal conflict, the lack of physical clues leaves us only with guesses. The Joyita, like so many other ghost ships before it, still carries its mystery to this day. The story of the MV Joyita didn't end when it was found. In fact, Its legend only grew stronger after being salvaged and repaired. But for many, the Joyita was no longer just a ship. It became a symbol of maritime mystery, a vessel cursed by its own unanswered questions. After it was fixed, the ship went back into service, but its dark reputation lingered. Sailors were afraid to work on the ship, believing it was haunted by the spirits of those who had vanished. Some even claimed they heard strange sounds coming from the ship or felt a creepy presence while aboard. Whether these stories were true or just the result of the ship's eerie past, they added another layer of intrigue to the Joyita's tale. Eventually, the ship fell into disrepair once more, this time on purpose, left to rot away. The Joyita became a forgotten relic of its own mystery, a physical reminder of the day it was discovered drifting alone in the vast Pacific Ocean, empty and unexplained. But the legacy of the Joyita is more than just about its ghostly reputation. It's a reminder of the ocean's vastness and unpredictability. Even in an age where technology and modern navigation are at their peak, the sea remains a place where mysteries unfold, where ships can vanish without a trace, and where answers often slip just out of reach. To maritime historians and enthusiasts, the Joyita is an example of the unknown, a story that forces us to rethink what we know about human behavior, mechanical failure, and the raw power of nature. How can we explain a ship that was still floating but completely abandoned? How do we explain the disappearance of 25 people without a trace? And what about the eerie details? The clock that had stopped, the bloodstains, the missing equipment, without any clear answers. For the people of the South Pacific, the Joyita is more than just a mystery. It's a warning. It's a tale of how even the most routine journeys can turn into something unexplainable. It serves as a reminder to respect the sea, to recognize its power, and to understand that it can keep its secrets hidden for as long as it wants. And so, the Joyita remains one of the ocean's most lasting puzzles. Its story has inspired countless theories, sparked debates among experts, and captured the imaginations of all those who wonder what truly happened on that fateful day in 1955. But like all great mysteries, the tale of the Joyita is just as much about what we don't know as what we do. As the ship fades into history, its legacy lives on. A ghost ship that continues to haunt the waters of the Pacific, forever tied to the mysteries of the deep. The MV Joyita may have been abandoned, but its story will never be forgotten. It was the year 1986 when something strange and unforgettable was discovered beneath the waves near Japan. A local diving guide named Kihachiro Aratake was exploring the waters off the coast of a small, peaceful island called Yonaguni. What he found that day would spark debates, theories, and curiosity around the world. Lying quietly on the ocean floor were enormous stone structures, so big and perfectly shaped that they looked like the remains of an ancient city lost to time. At first glance, it seemed like a place where people once lived, built temples and carved out streets. But not everyone agreed. Some experts believed these formations were simply natural rocks shaped by the sea over thousands of years. Others were convinced they were man-made, possibly part of a forgotten chapter in human history. This is the mysterious tale of the Yonaguni monument, one of the most fascinating underwater puzzles ever discovered. The story begins in a remote and peaceful corner of the world. Yonaguni Island, part of Japan's Okinawa prefecture, is surrounded by clear turquoise waters and steep rocky cliffs. It's the last inhabited island of Japan before you reach Taiwan. Life there moves slowly, with nature taking center stage. It's a place where the sky meets the sea in a quiet, endless embrace. But hidden beneath those calm, beautiful waters is a mystery that has left scientists and adventurers scratching their heads for decades. Kihachiro Aratake, who ran local dive tours, was always on the lookout for new and exciting places to show his guests. Yonaguni already had a reputation for stunning coral reefs and clear waters, truly a paradise for divers. But Aratake wanted to offer something more, something unforgettable. One sunny afternoon, while exploring the southern coast of the island, something unusual caught his attention. He noticed a dark shadow on the ocean floor, darker than the surrounding area. Curious, he swam down for a closer look. As he got nearer, the shadow grew larger and clearer. And then he saw it. What rose up from the seabed was nothing like the usual coral or rocks he was used to. It was massive. It had sharp edges and clean lines. The shapes were too straight, too perfect to be natural. It looked like giant steps or terraces carved from stone, almost like a sunken pyramid or part of a long-lost city. Aratake couldn't believe his eyes. He had stumbled upon something completely unexpected, and so began the mystery of the Yonaguni Monument, a place that still challenges our understanding of history and nature to this day. As Professor Masaki Kimura continued to explore the underwater structure near Yonaguni Island, he began to notice details that didn't seem random. Some parts looked like they had been carefully shaped by human hands. He saw what looked like wide staircases leading up to raised platforms, long passageways carved straight into the rock, and even openings that looked like they could have been doorways or windows. One especially curious section of the site, called the Turtle, looked like a massive sculpture of a sea turtle sitting on a pedestal, as if it had been placed there on purpose. The more Kimura saw, the more he believed that this was no accident of nature. He became convinced that these features were built by people, possibly by a civilization that existed before any written history. But there was one big question. How could such a structure be underwater? The monument lies around 100 feet below the surface of the sea. For it to have once stood above sea level, Kimura estimated it would have to be at least 10,000 years old, dating back to the time of the last ice age, when sea levels were much lower because huge glaciers covered parts of the Earth. If that was true, it would make the Yonaguni Monument one of the oldest human-made structures ever discovered, possibly older than the pyramids of Egypt or Stonehenge. That kind of discovery could completely change what we thought we knew about human history. Kimura spent many years diving at the site and researching it in detail. Each time he went underwater, he found something new that made his theory stronger. He claimed to have discovered what looked like stone tools buried in the seabed nearby, as well as markings and symbols carved into the rock, possibly the remains of an ancient language. To Kimura, this monument wasn't just a coincidence of nature. It was a lost piece of a forgotten world, built by a highly advanced culture long before the civilizations we learn about in school. But not everyone agreed with him. As news of the Yonaguni Monument spread around the world, many experts started to weigh in, especially geologists who study how rocks and landforms are created. Some of them were skeptical. They believed the structure could be explained by natural forces. The main material at Yonaguni is sandstone, a type of rock that can crack in straight lines when it's exposed to water, pressure, and shifting earth. Over thousands of years, underwater currents and movements of tectonic plates could have shaped the steps, terraces, and angles that make the monument look man-made. One of the most outspoken critics was Dr. Robert Schoch, a geologist from Boston University. He traveled to Yonaguni himself and dove down to see the monument up close. While he agreed that some parts of the site were unusual, he believed most of it could be explained by natural weathering. In his view, there just wasn't enough solid proof, like tools, pottery, or other signs of human life, to say for sure that people had built the monument. The debate over the Yonaguni Monument quickly became a hot topic. On one side, Kimura and his supporters pointed to the monument's precise shapes and detailed layout, arguing that nature alone couldn't create something so organized. On the other side, skeptics insisted that without clear artifacts, we couldn't say the site was built by humans. Both sides brought strong arguments, and as time went on, the mystery only grew deeper. Today, the Yonaguni Monument has become a dream destination for divers. People come from all over the world to swim through its maze-like structures, surrounded by colorful fish and the calm silence of the deep sea. It's a place where history and nature seem to blend together and where you can't help but feel a sense of wonder. Whether it's the remains of a long-lost civilization or an amazing creation of nature, the Yonaguni monument continues to amaze, puzzle, and inspire everyone who visits. The Yonaguni monument quickly became one of the most hotly debated discoveries in modern history, drawing attention from scientists, historians, and explorers all over the world. On one side of the argument were people like Professor Masaki Kimura, who strongly believed that the monument was the work of an ancient and unknown civilization, a relic so old it could change everything we thought we knew about the early days of human history. On the other side were the skeptics, especially geologists, who believed that the monument was not man-made at all. They saw it as a stunning but completely natural creation shaped over thousands of years by the powerful forces of the ocean, waves, earthquakes, and time. Kimura's theory was daring. He believed the monument wasn't just one building, but part of a much bigger complex that included roads, smaller buildings, and even areas that looked like they were used for rituals, such as a stone altar. According to Kimura, the entire site could be as much as 10,000 years old, possibly even older than the famous pyramids of Egypt or the stone circles of Stonehenge. If his theory was true, it would mean that an advanced society existed in this part of the world at a time when most people were believed to be simple hunter-gatherers. It would mean that human civilization began far earlier than we ever imagined. Kimura spent years diving at Yonaguni and studying the site. Over time, he claimed to have found even more clues to support his idea. He reported discovering stone tools near the monument, as well as carvings and symbols etched into the rock, markings that might belong to an ancient language or culture. He even suggested that some parts of the monument, like the famous turtle formation, were carefully carved to look like animals or meaningful symbols, not just random shapes made by nature. To Kimura, all these details pointed to one thing: human hands had shaped this place. But many experts didn't agree. One of the strongest critics of Kimura's theory was Dr. Robert Schoch, a well-known geologist from Boston University. After diving at the site himself, Schoch admitted that some parts of the structure looked unusual, but he wasn't convinced that people had built it. In his view, the features of the monument could be explained by simple geology. The rock that makes up Yonaguni is mostly sandstone, which has a tendency to crack in straight lines. Combined with underwater earthquakes and powerful currents, this kind of erosion can create straight edges, flat steps, and terraces that look man-made but are completely natural. Schoch wasn't alone. Other geologists pointed to similar natural formations found around the world. In Northern Ireland, the Giant's Causeway is made up of thousands of perfectly shaped hexagonal columns, formed not by people, but by ancient lava flows. In the Bahamas, the Bimini Road was once believed to be a lost highway from Atlantis, but scientists later found it was just a natural pattern in the limestone caused by erosion over time. One of the biggest problems for Kimura's theory was the lack of clear, physical proof. For a site to be confirmed as human-made, archaeologists usually need to find artifacts, things like pottery, tools, bones, or other objects made by people. While Kimura said he found stone tools near the site, critics argued those tools might have drifted there from somewhere else in the ocean and didn't necessarily prove the monument had been built by humans. The argument wasn't just about Yonaguni, it was part of a much bigger question. How do we understand and interpret the ancient past? Kimura and his supporters believed that the monument might help us rethink the timeline of human history. They saw it as a doorway to new discoveries, a clue that our ancestors may have been far more advanced than we give them credit for. Some even connected Yonaguni to ancient legends, such as the mythical continent of Mu, said to have sunk into the Pacific Ocean thousands of years ago. Though there is no scientific proof that Mu ever existed, stories of sunken lands appear in many cultures, from Atlantis in the west to Lemuria in the east. Kimura imagined Yonaguni as a sacred site, a cultural and religious center for long-lost people. Its step-like design reminded him of ziggurats and pyramids found in places like Mesopotamia and Central America. If his theory was true, it could mean that humanity's story stretches back much further than we ever thought possible. But again, the skeptics had their doubts. They pointed out a major issue. There was no clear connection between the Yonaguni monument and any known ancient civilization. Unlike places such as Machu Picchu or the Great Pyramid of Giza, where artifacts, written records, and nearby settlements confirm human involvement, Yonaguni stands alone. There are no villages nearby, no pottery or bones, no ruins of homes or temples. Nothing solidly links the structure to a human culture. There's also the question of its age. Kimura estimated that the monument is over 10,000 years old, based on how far sea levels have risen since the end of the last ice age. But dating a site this way is tricky. Without carbon-dated artifacts or other physical evidence, it's impossible to be sure exactly how old the monument really is. Still, despite all the debates and unanswered questions, the Yonaguni monument continues to fascinate people from around the globe. For many, it's not just about rocks or ruins. It's about curiosity, imagination, and the deep human desire to uncover the secrets of the past. Whether it's a natural wonder or a forgotten masterpiece from an ancient civilization, one thing is certain. Yonaguni holds a powerful mystery beneath the waves, and it continues to inspire new questions with every dive. The idea of a lost civilization that created massive structures only to have them swallowed by the sea is incredibly intriguing. It taps into our deep fascination with the unknown and our strong desire to uncover secrets hidden just beneath the surface. Even if the monument is a natural formation, it's still a masterpiece of nature, a stunning reminder of the Earth's immense power and creativity. The straight lines, the terraces, and the sharp angles, these features might have been shaped by erosion and tectonic activity, but they look so deliberate, almost like someone intentionally created them, like a work of art. Standing by the sea, surrounded by towering walls and large platforms, it's easy to understand why so many divers have been drawn to the mystery of it all. The Yonaguni monument, in the end, remains a puzzle. Is it a forgotten relic from an ancient world, a symbol of human genius lost to the sands of time? Or is it simply a natural wonder, shaped over thousands of years by the relentless power of the ocean? For now, the answer is hidden beneath the waves, waiting to be uncovered. The mystery of the Yonaguni monument leaves us with more questions than answers. Is it the creation of an ancient civilization, or simply a natural masterpiece? Either way, it's a story that reminds us of how much of our world is still unexplored, how many secrets lie just below the surface, waiting to be discovered. The Challenger Deep is the deepest known point in the ocean, located within the Mariana Trench. But the story of this incredible place goes beyond its sheer depth. The Challenger Deep is surrounded by many mysteries that have puzzled scientists for years, including strange, unexplained sounds recorded in the Mariana Trench. These sounds suggest that something unusual might be hiding in the vast, dark abyss. Let's take a journey into the deep unknown, where the Challenger Deep and the secrets of the Mariana Trench await. The ocean covers more than 70% of the Earth's surface, but its greatest mysteries are hidden in its deepest regions. The Challenger Deep, being the deepest point on Earth, plunges nearly 7 miles below the surface of the Pacific Ocean. This is so much deeper than Mount Everest is tall that it is hard to truly grasp. It is a place so extreme and isolated that we have explored it less than the surface of the Moon. But what lies at the bottom of this dark abyss? What kind of life survives in a world where the temperature is just above freezing, where the pressure is over 1,000 times greater than at sea level, and where eternal darkness reigns? And then there are those strange sounds. Scientists have recorded noises from the Mariana Trench that they can't explain. Are these sounds caused by natural processes, or do they suggest something even stranger lurking in the depths, something we are yet to understand? This is the story of the Challenger Deep and the mysteries of the Mariana Trench, a place that seems like Earth's final frontier. The Challenger Deep is located at the southernmost tip of the Mariana Trench, a place so remote and mysterious that for centuries it appeared as a blank space on our maps. The trench stretches for nearly 1,500 miles and plunges almost 36,000 feet beneath the ocean's surface. It is one of the most extreme environments on Earth. The pressure here is over 1,000 times greater than at sea level. The temperature is near freezing, and sunlight never reaches its depths. The trench is like an underwater version of outer space, a harsh, alien world where life shouldn't be able to survive. And yet, life does exist here, thriving in ways that are still not fully understood. To give you an idea of how deep the Challenger Deep is, let's put it into perspective. At its deepest point, it's nearly 7 miles beneath the surface, which is more than a mile deeper than the height of Mount Everest. Imagine standing on the summit of Everest, looking out at the vast landscape below, and then picture yourself sinking that entire distance into the cold, dark ocean. That's the Challenger Deep. The Mariana Trench itself was formed by tectonic forces, where the Pacific Plate is slowly sliding beneath the smaller Mariana Plate in a process called subduction. This geological collision has created a deep scar in the Earth's crust, forming a trench that acts as a boundary between two massive slabs of rock. While scientists have studied the trench's formation and structure, much of what lies within remains a mystery, waiting to be discovered. The Challenger Deep remains one of the least explored places on Earth. It wasn't until fairly recently in human history that we even realized the Challenger Deep existed. The trench was first discovered in the year 1875 during the voyage of the HMS Challenger, a British research ship sent on a mission to explore the world's oceans. Using a weighted rope, the crew measured the depth of the trench and found that it was much deeper than anything they had encountered before. This discovery sparked the beginning of our fascination with the Mariana Trench and its deepest point, which would later be named after the ship that first measured it. Although we have mapped and charted the Challenger Deep, exploring it has proven to be much more challenging. The conditions down there are so extreme that even the most advanced technology struggles to survive under the immense pressure. For decades, the Challenger Deep was seen more as an idea than a real place, so far away and so dangerous that it seemed almost impossible to reach. However, that changed in the year 1960 when two men, Jacques Piccard and Don Walsh, decided to go where no human had gone before. In 1960, aboard the bathyscaphe Trieste, Piccard and Walsh began a journey that would go down in history. The Trieste was no ordinary ship. It was specifically designed for deep-sea exploration and was essentially a metal sphere surrounded by a steel and gasoline shell made to withstand the unimaginable pressure of the ocean's depths. The sphere was small, barely large enough to hold two people, and the inside was cramped, claustrophobic, and poorly lit. Every part of the craft was built to endure the crushing pressure of over 16,000 pounds per square inch, the kind of force that could instantly crush a human body. Their journey began just after dawn. As the Trieste sank into the water, the world outside slowly grew darker and darker until all that could be seen through the windows was complete blackness. By the time they reached the midnight zone, about 3,000 feet below the surface, there was no sunlight at all, replaced by an eerie emptiness. The only light came from bioluminescent creatures drifting past the window, their glowing bodies creating an otherworldly display. But as they continued descending, life became more and more scarce. At about 30,000 feet, the walls of the Trieste began to creak and groan under the enormous pressure. For Piccard and Walsh, the sounds were unsettling, a constant reminder of how fragile their craft was in the face of the ocean's immense force. But despite the risks, they pressed on, descending deeper into the abyss. After almost 5 hours, they finally reached the Challenger Deep at 35,814 feet. They were now at the deepest point on Earth, a place where no human had ever set foot before. Outside the window, the seafloor was flat and empty, a vast stretch of sediment and clay. The pressure here was so intense that it compressed the water itself, making it denser than at the surface. The two men spent only 20 minutes at the bottom, peering into the darkness. To their surprise, they saw what looked like a flatfish swimming along the seafloor. This was an astonishing discovery because it suggested that life could exist in one of the most extreme environments on Earth. But with their oxygen running low and the dangers increasing, they had no choice but to begin their ascent. The success of the Trieste mission was a monumental achievement, but it also revealed just how little we knew about the deep ocean. For many years, the Challenger Deep, the deepest part of the world's oceans, remained mostly unexplored. Only robotic probes and unmanned vehicles had ventured into its depths. It wasn't until 2012, more than 50 years later, that filmmaker James Cameron made his own journey into the Challenger Deep. He did so aboard the Deep Sea Challenger, a specially designed submersible. Cameron's mission wasn't just about exploration, but also about sharing the experience with the world. He spent hours at the bottom, capturing breathtaking footage of the ocean floor and gathering samples for scientific study. Unlike previous explorers, such as Don Walsh and Jacques Picard, who were limited to simple observation, Cameron had advanced technology at his disposal. With high-tech cameras and sensors, he was able to document the strange, otherworldly world of the Challenger Deep in incredible detail. What he discovered was both fascinating and humbling. The ocean floor was teeming with unusual creatures, including translucent sea cucumbers, shrimp-like amphipods, and microbial mats. These organisms had adapted to the harsh conditions of the trench, thriving in complete darkness and relying on chemical reactions rather than sunlight to survive. For Cameron, the experience was life-changing, a reminder of how little we truly know about the ocean and its hidden depths. Despite these breakthroughs, the Challenger Deep remains one of the least understood places on Earth. Less than 5% of the world's oceans have been mapped in detail, and the Challenger Deep is no exception. Its remote location, combined with the extreme cost and complexity of deep-sea exploration, means much of its story remains untold. What might lie in its unexplored crevices? Are there unknown life forms waiting to be discovered, or geological phenomena that could completely alter our understanding of the planet? For now, the Challenger Deep remains an enigma, a place where science and mystery exist side by side. It serves as a stark reminder of how much of our planet is still unexplored, a world that is dark, alien, and full of endless mystery. But the Challenger Deep is only a small part of the vast Mariana Trench, a place where the boundaries of human knowledge are constantly being pushed. Spanning more than 1,500 miles across the western Pacific, the trench is a massive, shadowy canyon filled with extreme conditions, crushing pressure, freezing temperatures, and geological forces that are almost impossible to comprehend. Despite its harshness, the trench has not remained silent. In recent years, scientists have captured a series of eerie sounds coming from its depths. These recordings range from the subtle creaks of shifting tectonic plates to strange, haunting whale-like calls that seem impossible to explain. What are these sounds? Are they simply natural events, or could they be signs of something even more mysterious? As we move away from the Challenger Deep, let's turn our attention to the strange acoustics of the Mariana Trench and the mysterious signals that have puzzled scientists and sparked endless debate. The Mariana Trench is the deepest ocean trench on Earth, a place where the laws of nature seem to be stretched to their limits. Its incredible depth is matched only by its inaccessibility. The trench is so remote that even reaching its surface can take weeks of travel by ship. Beneath the surface lies a world shaped by powerful geological forces. The trench is formed by the Pacific Plate being forced beneath the Mariana Plate in a process known as subduction. This process creates intense seismic activity, underwater volcanoes, and towering hydrothermal vents that release superheated water into the deep sea. But the trench is more than just a geological wonder. It is also a strange soundscape filled with noises that range from the ordinary to the extraordinary. Sound behaves differently underwater, where the immense pressure and density of the deep ocean can amplify and distort even the faintest sounds. For decades, scientists have used underwater microphones, called hydrophones, to record the sounds of the trench in an effort to understand this mysterious environment. What they've captured has been far more than they expected. When hydrophones were first placed in the Mariana Trench, researchers expected to hear the usual sounds of the deep, distant rumbles from underwater volcanoes, the faint groans of shifting tectonic plates, or the occasional call of a whale diving into the depths. But what they recorded went far beyond that. They heard sounds so strange and alien that they seemed as if they were coming from another world altogether. The most well-known of these strange sounds is called the Western Pacific biotwang, a noise first recorded in the year 2014. At first, it begins as a deep, moaning hum, almost like the groan of an old, creaky machine. Then, it quickly rises into a sharp, metallic screech, cutting through the air before dropping into a low, resonating rumble. It's a sound unlike anything ever recorded in nature before, and it repeats in a pattern, which makes it seem like it's not just a random event. The biot twang has been captured several times, always in the same region of the Western Pacific. What makes it especially puzzling is its frequency range, which is so unusual that it doesn't match any known biological or geological source. But the biot twang is just one of many mysteries. Other recordings made with underwater microphones, called hydrophones, have captured bursts of rhythmic pulses, almost like sonar, yet they don't come from any human-made device. These pulses sound sharp, mechanical, and strangely deliberate, almost like they're trying to communicate something deep within the trench. The source of these pulses is still unknown. There are also long, deep rumbles that stretch across the entire audio spectrum. These low-frequency growls could be linked to geological activities like the grinding of tectonic plates or underwater landslides. But their power and clarity suggest there may be something more. Could these sounds be from a huge, yet-to-be-discovered creature moving through the trench? Or are they natural phenomena amplified by the trench's unique acoustics? One of the most unsettling recordings is a sound some scientists have named the whistle. It's a high-pitched, wavering noise, almost like an animal's cry. Yet, it echoes in such a way that it seems vast and distant, as though it's coming from deep within the earth itself. Some have described it as mournful, even haunting, as if the trench were alive and crying out in pain. Other sounds are even stranger. One recording captured what seemed like a steady, rhythmic thumping, similar to a heartbeat. It was faint but persistent, and its regularity made it seem as if it had a purpose. Could this be the sound of a deep-sea creature communicating or moving? Or might it be something completely mechanical, like an underwater current or the resonance of shifting water masses? What makes the sounds of the Mariana Trench so captivating is their diversity. Each noise is unique, from the strange biot twang to the eerie whistles and rhythmic pulses. Together, they create an acoustic portrait of a place that seems to defy the natural order. While some of these sounds may have possible explanations, many still remain a complete mystery. The mysterious sounds of the Mariana Trench have sparked a wide range of theories, from the scientific to the truly fantastical. One of the most widely believed ideas is that many of the sounds we hear from the ocean are created by living creatures. The ocean is home to an incredible variety of life, much of which remains unknown to us. The Mariana Trench, one of the deepest parts of the ocean, represents one of the last frontiers for marine science. Creatures living in the deep sea have adapted to survive in extreme environments, and their strange characteristics often seem almost unreal. Could the mysterious biot twang be the sound of an undiscovered creature? Some scientists think it could be. The pattern of the sound, its frequency, and how it repeats all suggest that it might come from a living being. It's not surprising, as the deep sea has a history of surprising discoveries. For example, the colossal squid, once thought to be a sailor's tall tale, was only proven to exist in the last few decades. If there's a creature in the Mariana Trench using a new way to communicate, it's entirely possible that we've just now heard it for the first time. However, there's a problem. The biot twang, along with other sounds recorded in the trench, doesn't match the sounds of any known marine animals. Even whales, which make some of the most complex and varied sounds in the ocean, don't produce noises at such high frequencies or with the metallic, mechanical quality of the biot twang. This has led some researchers to consider other explanations. Perhaps the sounds are not biological at all, but geological. The Mariana Trench is a place of constant change, with tectonic plates shifting and underwater volcanoes heating up the ocean floor. These movements can cause vibrations, which travel for miles and can distort as they bounce through the trench's unusual shape. The rhythmic pulses heard in the trench might be caused by these geological processes, such as earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, or even the slow shifts of underwater landslides. But while this idea can explain some of the sounds, it doesn't explain their variety or their eerie, almost otherworldly quality. Then, there are the more speculative theories. Some scientists suggest that the sounds might be connected to unknown underwater objects, sometimes referred to as unidentified submerged objects, or USOs. The ocean is vast and mostly unexplored, and there are many stories about strange lights and crafts seen under the water. Could the biot twang or rhythmic sounds be from advanced, unidentified technologies operating in the trench? While there's no solid proof to support this theory, the mysterious nature of the sounds leaves room for such speculation. Other researchers have proposed that the sounds could be caused by entirely new natural processes, ones we've never observed or even understood before. The deep ocean is a place of extremes, where pressure, temperature, and chemical reactions create conditions that are hard to replicate on land. Could these strange sounds be the result of these interactions? The possibility excites both scientists and ocean enthusiasts alike. Finally, some suggest that the sounds could be signaling something even bigger and more important, perhaps an entirely new ecosystem, a new type of life, or even hidden geological features that could change our understanding of the Earth. The Mariana Trench is a place where science and mystery meet, and every new discovery leads to more questions than answers. But one thing is certain. The sounds from the Mariana Trench remind us of how little we truly know about our planet. They call us to explore, to push the limits of technology and knowledge, and to keep asking questions about what lies beneath the surface. As we listen to these strange noises, we can't help but wonder, what else is out there, waiting to be discovered? On November 15, 2017, the ARA San Juan, a diesel-electric submarine belonging to the Argentine Navy, set out on what was supposed to be a normal mission. The submarine was one of Argentina's most advanced vessels, a German-built TR-1700 class boat designed for long-term operations. Commissioned in 1985, the San Juan had served the Navy for over 3 decades and had recently undergone an extensive overhaul. This process was intended to extend its life by another 30 years. The mission itself was straightforward. The San Juan had been tasked with patrolling Argentina's territorial waters, monitoring illegal fishing activities, and maintaining a visible presence in the South Atlantic. The crew, made up of 44 sailors, was highly trained, a mix of seasoned officers and promising recruits, all prepared for the challenges of submarine operations. The South Atlantic is no easy place to navigate. Its waters are cold and rough, and the region is known for its unpredictable weather. The submarine departed from Ushuaia, a remote port city at the southernmost tip of Argentina, often called the end of the world. From there, the San Juan began its journey northward, heading toward its home base in Mar del Plata, a bustling naval hub along Argentina's eastern coast. It was a familiar route, one the submarine had taken many times before. By all accounts, the mission was progressing smoothly. On the morning of November 15th, the San Juan made contact with Naval Command, reporting its position and an update on its journey. During this communication, the crew mentioned encountering an electrical issue in the forward battery compartment. According to the report, seawater had entered through the submarine's snorkel, causing a short circuit in the battery system. Although this was a potentially serious issue, the crew reassured Naval Command that they had isolated the affected compartment and were continuing their journey under control. That was the last anyone heard from the ARA San Juan. When the submarine failed to check in later that day, concern began to grow. Submarines, by design, often operate silently, cutting off communication to maintain stealth. A missed check-in wasn't immediately alarming, but as the hours passed, Naval Command began to fear the worst. The San Juan was officially declared missing, and Argentina launched an enormous search and rescue operation. Families of the crew gathered at the naval base in Mar del Plata, desperate for any news, while the Navy scrambled to locate the vessel. The search for the San Juan quickly became one of the largest submarine rescue efforts in history. Within days, Argentina enlisted the help of 18 countries, including the United States, Russia, and the United Kingdom. Each of these nations brought advanced technology and expertise to the operation, from state-of-the-art sonar systems to specialized underwater drones. Despite the international cooperation, the South Atlantic proved to be a formidable adversary. The waters where the San Juan disappeared were vast and treacherous, stretching thousands of miles in every direction. The submarine's last known location was near the San Jorge Gulf, an area where the seabed drops sharply into deep underwater trenches. These depths, combined with strong currents and unpredictable weather, made the search a logistical nightmare. As ships and aircraft scoured the area, hope remained that the San Juan might still be intact and that its crew could be alive but stranded. Submarines are equipped with emergency oxygen supplies, which can last for several days in the event of a malfunction. If the crew had managed to seal the damaged compartment and surface, there was still a chance they could be rescued. But as the days turned into weeks, the harsh reality of the situation began to set in. One of the most unsettling clues came from an international group that keeps track of hydroacoustic signals, sounds produced by underwater events such as earthquakes, explosions, or submarine activity. On the very same day the San Juan stopped communicating, their sensors detected an unusual sound near the submarine's last known position. The sound seemed to match what experts describe as an implosion, leading them to believe the San Juan might have experienced a catastrophic failure. Its hull could have collapsed under the overwhelming pressure of the ocean. The discovery was devastating. If the submarine had indeed imploded, it would have happened in an instant, leaving no time for the crew to react or send a distress signal. But even with this grim evidence, the exact location of the San Juan remained unknown. The search continued, with naval ships deploying sonar equipment to scan the ocean floor and aircraft flying over the area. Still, despite these efforts, the submarine appeared to have vanished without a trace. As the days turned into weeks, frustration grew. Families of the crew, who had gathered at the naval base in Mar del Plata, became increasingly upset with the lack of information. Protests broke out, with accusations that the Navy had failed to follow safety protocols and mishandled the search. The incident soon turned into a national controversy, casting a harsh light on the state of Argentina's military and its aging equipment. By the end of November, the mission had officially shifted from a search for survivors to a recovery operation. Hopes of finding anyone alive had faded, replaced by the grim task of locating the wreckage and uncovering the truth about what had happened. Yet, the ocean remained silent, its depths hiding the secrets of the San Juan. It would take more than a year of painstaking effort before any real progress was made in solving the mystery. As months passed and the wreckage of the San Juan remained elusive, speculation grew about what could have caused the submarine's disappearance. The absence of clear answers left room for many theories, some based on evidence, others purely speculative. Each theory painted a chilling picture of how what seemed like a routine patrol could have ended in disaster. One of the leading theories focused on an electrical problem the crew had reported just before their final communication. The San Juan's batteries, vital to its operation, were particularly vulnerable to failure if seawater entered the compartments where they were stored. According to the submarine's last message, seawater had entered through the snorkel, causing a short circuit in the forward battery compartment. While the crew reassured Naval Command that the situation was under control, experts suggested that the problem could have been far more serious than they let on. One possibility is that the short circuit led to the production of hydrogen gas, which is created as a byproduct of electrical malfunctions in lead-acid batteries. If this gas built up in the confined space of the battery compartment, even the smallest spark could have caused a huge explosion. This would be consistent with the unusual acoustic event detected near the San Juan's last known location, a sound that experts believed could have been the result of an implosion or underwater explosion. Another theory suggested that the San Juan could have suffered structural failure due to the immense pressure of the deep ocean. Submarines are designed to operate at certain depths, with hulls built to withstand the crushing weight of the water. However, even the strongest structures can weaken over time due to wear and tear. The San Juan was more than 30 years old and had undergone a major overhaul in 2014, during which many of its parts were replaced or repaired. Critics questioned whether the refit had been through enough, suggesting that flaws in the submarine's hull might have gone unnoticed. If the San Juan descended beyond its safe operating depth, the pressure could have caused the hull to collapse almost instantly. There was also speculation about external factors, but these remain unclear. The South Atlantic is a vast and bustling area, visited by fishing boats, commercial ships, and even foreign submarines. Some have wondered if the San Juan might have collided with another vessel, either on the surface or deep below. A collision at great depth could have severely damaged the submarine, leaving it unable to rise to the surface or send out an emergency signal. Others have suggested that the submarine could have been struck by a torpedo or mine by accident, though there is no proof to support this idea. One of the more debated theories is that the San Juan was on a secret mission when it disappeared. Some sources have claimed that the submarine was observing illegal fishing or foreign military activity in the region. This has led to speculation that the San Juan may have encountered another nation's submarine or even been attacked as part of a deliberate act of aggression. Although the Argentine Navy has rejected these claims, the secretive nature of the mission has only fueled conspiracy theories. Perhaps the most troubling possibility is that the San Juan simply fell victim to the harsh environment of the ocean. The sea is vast, powerful, and indifferent to human life. A mix of mechanical failure, human error, and natural conditions could have come together, creating a perfect storm of disaster. The lack of clear answers deepened the mystery, leaving families and experts with questions that seemed unlikely to be answered. For more than a year, the ARA San Juan remained hidden beneath the waves, its fate a mystery. The search efforts, although extensive, struggled against the size of the South Atlantic and the difficulties of locating a submarine in such deep waters. As months passed and then a full year went by, hope of finding the vessel seemed to fade. But in November of 2018, there was finally a breakthrough. A private company, hired by the Argentine government, called Ocean Infinity, joined the search with advanced technology capable of mapping the ocean floor in great detail. Their ship, the Seabed Constructor, was equipped with autonomous underwater vehicles, AUVs, robotic systems designed to operate at extreme depths. These AUVs could scan the seabed with sonar and high-resolution cameras, offering a level of precision that earlier searches had lacked. On November 17, 2018, just days after the first anniversary of the San Juan's disappearance, Ocean Infinity made a shocking discovery. More than 3,000 feet below the surface, in an area that had been searched before but not fully mapped, they found the wreckage of the submarine. The images sent back by the AUVs showed a haunting scene. The San Juan's hull was crushed and twisted, its parts scattered across the ocean floor. The submarine had clearly suffered a catastrophic failure, its structure imploded by the immense pressure of the deep sea. The location of the wreckage matched the acoustic anomaly detected shortly after the submarine's last communication. This suggested that the San Juan had likely been lost within hours of its final transmission. The implosion would have happened instantly, so quickly that the crew would not have had time to react or send out a distress signal. It was a sobering confirmation of the worst fears regarding the submarine's fate. For the families of the 44 sailors aboard, the discovery brought both relief and sorrow. After more than a year of uncertainty, they finally had answers. But the sight of the wreckage was a painful reminder of the tragedy. Many family members expressed anger towards the Argentine Navy, accusing it of mishandling the search and failing to properly ensure the submarine's safety. The incident sparked widespread calls for reform within Argentina's military, with demands for better maintenance, training, and transparency. The discovery of the San Juan also highlighted the immense challenges of submarine operations. The vessel had been found in one of the harshest environments possible, deep, cold, and remote. It was a testament to the dedication of those involved in the search that the submarine was found at all. Yet, even with the wreckage now located, many questions remained unanswered. What exactly caused the catastrophic failure? Could it have been prevented? And what lessons could be learned to make sure such a tragedy never happens again? The wreck of the San Juan still rests on the seabed, a stark reminder of the risks faced by those who venture into the depths of the ocean. Its discovery brought some closure, but it also highlighted the fragile nature of human life in the face of nature's immense power. The story of the USS San Juan is a somber chapter in the history of submarine exploration, one that continues to resonate as we push the limits of what is possible beneath the waves. In the year 1872, a ship called the Celeste was found drifting aimlessly across the vast blue Atlantic Ocean. Her sails were only partly raised, her valuable cargo was completely untouched, and there was plenty of food and supplies on board. But there was one haunting problem. Not a single person was left on the ship. The crew had vanished. No bodies, no signs of a fight or storm, nothing. Just a silent, empty vessel gliding eerily through the waves. To this day, the disappearance of the Celeste's crew remains one of the most spine-chilling and puzzling mysteries in the history of the sea. At first glance, the Celeste didn't seem like a ship destined for legend. She wasn't a grand or luxurious vessel. She was a simple brigantine, a two-masted sailing ship built for work, not for fame or beauty. Measuring just over 100 feet long and about 25 feet wide, she looked much like any other cargo ship of the 19th century. What she lacked in size and splendor, she made up for in strength and endurance. The Celeste was a tough, hard-working ship, designed to carry heavy loads across dangerous waters. She was originally launched in the year 1861 in Nova Scotia under a different name, the Amazon. From the very start, her journey was troubled. On her very first voyage, she suffered damage and had to be brought back for repairs. Over the years, she changed owners several times and seemed to run into one misfortune after another. By the year 1867, the ship had run aground during a fierce storm near Cape Breton Island. Battered and left behind, she was eventually salvaged, sold at an auction, and given a new name, the Celeste. Was this new name meant to give her a fresh start and chase away the bad luck that followed her? No one knows for sure, but if that was the hope, it didn't work. By the year 1872, the Celeste had a new captain, Benjamin Briggs. Captain Briggs was everything the ship was not. He was an experienced and trustworthy sailor with many years of navigating the unpredictable Atlantic Ocean under his belt. He was known for being cautious, detail-oriented, and disciplined. Those who sailed with him respected his calm attitude and sound decision-making. He didn't take wild risks, and he certainly didn't allow carelessness on board his ship. But this trip was more than just another job for Captain Briggs. It was personal. He had carefully chosen 7 crew members, all of whom he trusted deeply. Even more unusual, he brought along his beloved wife Sarah and their 2-year-old daughter Sophia. While it wasn't common for captains to bring their families on such long and risky voyages, Briggs was a devoted family man. He saw this journey, a business trip to Genoa, Italy, as a chance to combine work and family time. The Mary Celeste left New York Harbor on November 7, 1872, with a cargo of 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol. This wasn't the kind of alcohol found in bars. It was highly flammable and used mainly in factories and manufacturing. Transporting it safely required great care, but Captain Briggs was well prepared for the task. The first few weeks of the journey went smoothly. The November seas were relatively calm, and the ship's log showed steady progress as they headed east toward Europe. The crew worked hard and followed orders. The Briggs family settled comfortably into their quarters. Everything seemed perfectly normal, but as the ship neared the Azores, a group of islands in the middle of the Atlantic, something changed. To this very day, no one knows what exactly went wrong. Did they face a sudden storm? Did a massive wave hit them? Was it something more mysterious and strange? All we know for certain is that the Mary Celeste was later found floating without her crew or passengers. They had vanished, without a trace, without a clue. The ship itself was still intact, still stocked with supplies, and still sailing on. And so the Mary Celeste became a ghost ship, a floating riddle that has puzzled sailors, historians, and mystery lovers for more than 150 years. On the 4th day of December in the year 1872, a British sailing ship called the Dei Gratia was making its way across the vast Atlantic Ocean. The ship had left New York and was headed toward Gibraltar. Though it had a similar purpose as the Mary Celeste, both were cargo vessels. The Dei Gratia had begun its journey several weeks after the Mary Celeste, which meant it was hundreds of miles behind. Captain David Morehouse, the man in charge of the Dei Gratia, was no stranger to the sea. He had spent years navigating the unpredictable waters of the Atlantic and was known for his steady hand and sharp instincts. That morning, as the Dei Gratia neared the group of islands known as the Azores, something strange caught the crew's attention. Far out on the horizon, a ship was drifting aimlessly. Its sails were partly up, but they hung loose, flapping without purpose in the wind. The vessel didn't seem to be moving with direction or control. It was simply being carried along by the ocean's current. Captain Morehouse thought the ship might be in trouble, which wasn't unusual in those days. Powerful storms, accidents, and rough seas often wrecked ships, leaving dozens lost every year. But as the Dei Gratia sailed closer, a sense of unease began to grow. Through his spyglass, Captain Morehouse couldn't see a single person on the deck. No flags were flying. No distress signals were raised. There were no signs of movement or life on board at all. When he finally read the name painted on the ship's stern, he was stunned. It was Mary Celeste. Captain Morehouse knew that name well. He personally knew its captain, Benjamin Briggs. In fact, the two had dined together before setting off on their separate voyages. They had left the same port only days apart. And now here was Mary Celeste, adrift and seemingly deserted in the middle of the ocean. Worried about what might have happened to the people aboard, Captain Morehouse gave a quick order. Send a boarding team. 2 sailors from the Dei Gratia rowed over to the silent ship and climbed aboard. What they found would puzzle and disturb not only them, but the entire world for generations to come. Mary Celeste was eerily still. The only sounds were the creaking of wooden boards and the soft splashing of waves against the hull. Inside the ship, everything appeared untouched. The cabins and cargo were in order. Barrels of salted meat, fresh water, and other supplies were neatly stored and untouched, enough food to last the crew for several months. Personal items were still in place. Clothes in drawers, toys that belonged to Captain Briggs's young daughter Sophia, and even valuable items like gold coins and navigation tools. The ship's cargo, 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol, was mostly still there. Only 9 barrels were found empty, a strange detail that would later spark endless theories about what had happened. In Captain Briggs's cabin, the boarding party found the ship's logbook. Its last entry was written on the 25th of November and showed the ship was near the Azores at that time. The log entry was calm and routine. Nothing suggested any trouble. The weather was normal. The ship was on course. Everything appeared fine. And yet the crew was gone. Every lifeboat was missing, which meant the crew had abandoned ship. But why? The Mary Celeste was still seaworthy. There was no damage, no signs of fire, flooding, or violence. It didn't look like a shipwreck or a crime scene. It looked like the people had simply vanished, leaving everything behind in a rush. The sailors who had boarded the ship couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. It was as if time had suddenly stopped on the Mary Celeste, freezing all signs of life in place. They sailed the ghostly ship back to Gibraltar, where officials would launch an inquiry to investigate the mysterious disappearance. But bringing the ship to port was just the beginning. What followed was more than a century of rumors, investigations, and wild speculation. How could a sturdy, well-equipped ship be found sailing alone with no one aboard? What could have made a responsible and experienced captain like Benjamin Briggs order his crew and his own family to leave the safety of the ship? For decades, people have searched for answers. Some theories are based in science and logic. Others drift into the strange and unbelievable. One of the more straightforward ideas is that a natural event forced the crew to abandon ship. A popular theory involves rogue waves, huge, sudden walls of water that can appear out of nowhere due to shifting weather or underwater currents. If such a wave had crashed onto the Mary Celeste, it could have flooded part of the ship and frightened the crew into thinking they were sinking. In a moment of panic, they may have rushed into the lifeboat, hoping to return when it was safe. But the sea holds its secrets tightly, and the full truth of what happened aboard the Mary Celeste remains one of the ocean's greatest mysteries. One theory about the mysterious disappearance of the crew of the Mary Celeste is that the ship might have run into a waterspout. A waterspout is like a tornado, but it forms over water. These strange spinning storms can bring powerful winds and heavy rain, which can make a ship rock dangerously and scare everyone on board. If the crew thought the Mary Celeste was in serious danger, they might have decided to leave the ship quickly, planning to come back after the weather got better. Another possible reason for the crew's disappearance is linked to the ship's cargo. The Mary Celeste was carrying 171 barrels of industrial alcohol, a type of highly flammable liquid. Later investigations showed that 9 of those barrels were completely empty. Some researchers believe the alcohol might have leaked out, letting out dangerous fumes into the ship's hold. If a small spark or even a tiny fire had started, it could have caused a sudden burst of flames or even an explosion. That kind of event, even if it didn't leave much damage, could have terrified the crew into thinking the whole ship might blow up. In a panic, they may have fled. Interestingly, scientists in the early 2000s did experiments to see what would happen if alcohol fumes caught fire in a small, closed space. Their tests showed that an explosion could happen without burning the ship or leaving any black marks behind. This might explain why the Mary Celeste was found floating peacefully, without signs of fire, but still missing its crew. Even with this modern research, one big question remains. If the crew left the ship to escape danger, why didn't they come back once it was safe? Some people think the answer could involve conflict between people on board. Could there have been a mutiny? Sailors turning against their captain has happened many times in sea history, but in this case, there isn't much proof. The ship looked neat and undamaged when it was found. No broken things, no blood, no signs of a fight. Even valuable items, like gold coins, were still there. That makes it hard to believe that a robbery or mutiny took place. Pirates have also been mentioned in some theories, but that idea doesn't quite fit either. Pirates usually steal valuable things, but nothing was taken from the Mary Celeste. The cargo and supplies were untouched. Also, by the 1870s, pirate attacks in the Atlantic Ocean were rare. Strong laws and better patrols had almost wiped them out. If pirates had attacked, they would have likely taken something, or left a mess behind. Then there are the wild and spooky theories. Some say aliens might have taken the crew, or that something supernatural happened, like a curse or a ghostly presence that drove the sailors mad or scared them to death. Most historians don't believe these ideas, but they've become a big part of the Mary Celeste's legend. Stories like these fuel the imaginations of authors, filmmakers, and mystery lovers everywhere. Some even try to connect the ship to the Bermuda Triangle, even though the Mary Celeste was far away from that area when it was found. One of the more believable ideas is that the crew left the ship because of several small problems that together seemed like a life-threatening emergency. For example, maybe the ship's pump wasn't working right, and the crew thought it was filling with water. If that happened along with bad weather and the strong smell of alcohol fumes, the captain might have thought the ship was going to sink or explode. He may have decided the best option was to get everyone into the lifeboat and wait nearby until things calmed down. But the lifeboat was never found. That suggests the crew left the ship, but never made it back. They might have been carried off by powerful ocean currents, flipped over in a storm, or died from exposure and lack of water. If this is what really happened, then the decision to leave the ship was a tragic mistake, made in fear and confusion. Since the Mary Celeste was discovered drifting in December of 1872, many experts have studied it closely. Historians have looked at old ship designs, cargo records, and weather reports from the time. Forensic scientists have examined items left on board. Each new clue adds a piece to the puzzle, but the main mystery remains. Why did the crew leave a ship that was still in good shape and could clearly still sail? Even the Mary Celeste's life after the event wasn't peaceful. After it was salvaged, it was put back into service with new owners. But the ship was said to be cursed. In the year 1885, it was intentionally wrecked near Haiti in an insurance scam, bringing its troubled story to a sad end. Still, the tale of the Mary Celeste lives on. It has inspired countless books, movies, and debates. Its strange mixture of facts and unanswered questions continues to fascinate people around the world. The ship has become more than just a ghost ship. It stands as a symbol of how the sea can both humble and mystify us. Even with all our modern tools and knowledge, the ocean still hides secrets we may never fully understand. Was it a natural disaster, a mistake made in fear, or something beyond our understanding? Just like the vanished crew, the true answer lies lost somewhere in the deep. The year was 1918, and the USS Cyclops, a massive naval ship, was making its regular journey across the Atlantic. On board were more than 300 men, along with thousands of tons of cargo. This sturdy ship had been built to endure the hardships of war, yet somewhere between Barbados and Baltimore, the Cyclops vanished without a trace. There were no distress signals, no wreckage, and no survivors. It was as though the ocean had swallowed the ship whole. In the early 20th century, the United States Navy was becoming more powerful, with ambitions of extending its reach around the world. It was clear that naval dominance wouldn't just depend on warships, but also on the crucial support systems that kept them running. Enter the USS Cyclops, a giant of its time and an essential part of the Navy's growing fleet. Launched in 1910, the Cyclops was one of 4 Proteus-class collier ships specifically designed to transport huge amounts of coal, the fuel that powered naval ships during the Age of Steam. At an impressive 542 feet long and 65 feet wide, the Cyclops was a true powerhouse, capable of carrying more than 12,000 tons of coal at once. Its enormous size and cargo capacity made it a marvel of engineering, an indispensable tool for the Navy, which relied on coal to fuel its operations across the oceans. But the Cyclops was not just big, it was also built with cutting-edge design features. Constructed with durability in mind, The ship's steel hull and watertight compartments were made to endure even the roughest seas. Inside, the ship's holds were carefully organized to maximize the efficiency of loading and unloading cargo. Although the Cyclops was not built for speed, with a top speed of just 15 knots, its strength and reliability made it ideal for long voyages. When World War I began in 1914, coal was no longer the Navy's only fuel priority. Oil was quickly becoming the preferred fuel for warships, making coal less important. However, this didn't render the Cyclops obsolete. Instead, her role adapted. She became a versatile vessel, transporting not just coal, but also ammunition, supplies, and even troops when needed. In this new capacity, the Cyclops became a dependable workhorse of the fleet, always ready to deliver essential resources wherever they were required. In January of 1918, the USS Cyclops was given a new mission. She was instructed to transport a large amount of manganese ore, specifically 10,800 tons, from Brazil to the United States. Manganese was crucial for the war effort, as it was needed to strengthen steel for making weapons and machinery. The Cyclops was to begin her journey in Rio de Janeiro, make a stop in Salvador, Brazil, and then continue northward to Baltimore, Maryland. The ship left Rio de Janeiro without any problems and reached Salvador in mid-February. After loading up her full cargo, she set off on the long journey north. Her route would take her through the Caribbean, a region known for its calm seas and predictable weather. This was supposed to be a regular trip, one the Cyclops had done many times before. On March 3, 1918, the ship made a planned stop in Barbados to resupply. It was also an opportunity for her captain, Lieutenant Commander George Worley, to file a report. Everything appeared normal. The Cyclops was in good condition, and there were no signs of trouble. The ship departed from Barbados on March 4th, heading for Baltimore, with an expected arrival later that month. But somewhere between Barbados and Baltimore, the Cyclops disappeared. No distress signal was sent, no calls for help were made, and there was no trace of her anywhere. The huge ship, along with her 309 passengers, crew members, and her valuable cargo, seemed to vanish, as if swallowed by the sea itself. The disappearance of the USS Cyclops shocked both the US Navy and the entire nation. This was no ordinary vessel. It was a large military ship, built to handle the harsh conditions of the ocean and crewed by experienced sailors. How could such a ship disappear without leaving a single clue? The mystery immediately became a focus of intense naval investigations, but with no evidence, everyone was left puzzled and searching for answers. As soon as the ship failed to arrive in Baltimore, search efforts began. Ships and planes covered thousands of square miles of ocean, tracing the expected route of the Cyclops. Ports along the East Coast, in the Caribbean, and in South America were all alerted to be on the lookout for any wreckage or survivors. Wireless stations, a relatively new technology at the time, were monitored in case any signals from the ship were received, but nothing came through. No lifeboats, no debris, no oil slicks. There was absolutely no sign of the Cyclops. The disappearance of the ship left everyone baffled. Normally, even in the worst shipwrecks, some form of debris like planks, lifebuoys, or cargo would wash up on shore, but with the Cyclops, the ocean remained strangely silent. It was as if the ship had been completely swallowed by the vast Atlantic. What made the situation even more unsettling was the fact that the Cyclops had never sent out a distress signal. While wireless communication in 1918 was still in its early stages, the ship was equipped with a working radio and a trained operator. If there had been any time to send out a distress call, why hadn't they? This raised a troubling question. Had something happened to the ship so suddenly that the crew had no time to react? More than 100 years have passed since the USS Cyclops vanished, but the mystery remains as intriguing as ever. With new advancements in technology and a renewed interest in maritime history, researchers today are revisiting the case, hoping to uncover fresh evidence or develop new theories that might finally explain what happened to the ship. One of the more recent technological advances that has sparked new interest in the mystery of the Cyclops is the use of deep-sea exploration tools. These tools include remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, and sophisticated sonar mapping systems. These advancements have allowed researchers to explore parts of the ocean that were once unreachable. While no confirmed wreckage of the Cyclops has been found, these technologies have helped discover dozens of previously unknown shipwrecks in the same area, showing that even the largest ships can remain hidden in the vast ocean depths. Some modern theories about the Cyclops focus on possible structural issues with the ship itself. Historical records suggest that the design of the ship may have made it unstable when carrying heavy loads. The Cyclops was transporting manganese ore, which was both very heavy and prone to shifting if not properly secured. Even a slight shift in the cargo could have made the ship unstable, potentially causing it to capsize quickly. This theory helps explain the absence of a distress signal. If the ship had suddenly overturned or broken apart, the crew would have had no time to react. Another line of investigation focuses on Captain George Worley, whose leadership has always been a topic of debate. Worley's erratic behavior and questionable decisions during earlier voyages have led some to wonder whether he might have played a role in the Cyclops' disappearance. Some witnesses from his past voyages described him as harsh and unpredictable, and rumors about his German heritage caused suspicion during a time of heightened wartime paranoia. However, there is no solid evidence to suggest that Worley deliberately sabotaged the ship or acted maliciously. More recently, studies of wartime records have revived the theory that enemy action could have been responsible for the Cyclops' disappearance. During World War I, German U-boats operated extensively in the Atlantic, targeting Allied ships. While no confirmed reports link a U-boat to the Cyclops, it is possible that the ship's disappearance was the result of an unrecorded attack. German naval records from that time are incomplete, leaving room for speculation. However, the lack of debris or survivors makes this theory less likely. Typically, even after a U-boat attack, some trace of the ship would be expected to surface. The Bermuda Triangle theory, though often dismissed by scientists, continues to capture the public's imagination. The Cyclops vanished in an area known for its mysterious disappearances, and some have speculated that the ship fell victim to a strange phenomenon unique to that region. From methane hydrate eruptions to rogue waves and magnetic anomalies, various natural explanations have been suggested. While most of these ideas remain unproven, they add an extra layer of mystery to the Cyclops story. One of the most intriguing modern theories is that the Cyclops sank due to a combination of factors. A minor structural failure, made worse by her heavy load and possibly rough seas, could have triggered a chain of events that led to her rapid sinking. This theory suggests that the ship's disappearance may not have been caused by a single disaster, but rather by a series of unfortunate circumstances working together. The mystery of the Cyclops has also inspired efforts to locate her wreckage. Organizations specializing in maritime archaeology and underwater exploration have suggested targeted searches along the ship's likely route using the latest mapping technology. However, the vastness of the search area and the depth of the Atlantic Ocean present huge challenges. Despite these difficulties, researchers remain hopeful that one day the mystery of the Cyclops will be solved. Until then, the USS Cyclops remains a haunting reminder of the ocean's ability to hide its secrets. Whether the ship lies intact on the seabed or was torn apart by the elements, her story continues to inspire curiosity and speculation. For now, we are left with questions, theories, and the enduring fascination of one of history's greatest maritime mysteries. Another ship, the Waratah, often referred to as the Titanic of the Southern Hemisphere, mysteriously disappeared off the coast of South Africa. Unlike the Cyclops, the Waratah was a luxury passenger ship designed for comfort and elegance. She was seen as a symbol of modern innovation and progress, a vessel built to dominate the seas. However, in the year 1909, during only her second voyage, The Waratah vanished without a trace, taking with her 211 passengers and crew members. What happened to the Waratah? Was it due to a design flaw, a violent storm, or something darker? Just like the Cyclops, the Waratah left behind no wreckage, no survivors, and no clear answers. Let's explore the story of the Waratah, a ship that set sail with great promise but was never seen again. At the dawn of the 20th century, Australia was full of optimism. The economy was growing, new trade routes were opening, and the demand for luxury travel was increasing. This changing landscape was connecting Australia to the rest of the world in new ways. Ships were no longer just means of transporting goods. They were symbols of progress, representing pride and modern achievement, linking continents and providing new opportunities for people. One of the shining stars of this era was the Waratah, a ship built to reflect the ambition and elegance of her time. She was constructed in the year 1908 by the Blue Anchor Line and was a marvel of Edwardian engineering. At 465 feet in length and weighing more than 9,000 tons, the Waratah was the largest and most advanced vessel ever commissioned by the company. Her design struck a balance between luxury and practicality. Above deck, first-class passengers were treated to a level of luxury rivaling the finest liners of the age. Ornate dining rooms, plush lounges, and modern cabins catered to the wealthy elite, while second-class accommodations provided comfortable and pleasant spaces for less affluent travelers. But the Waratah wasn't just a passenger ship. Below deck, her enormous cargo holds were designed to transport Australia's most valuable exports: wool, meat, and precious metals, making her an essential link in the country's trade network with Europe. Her combination of grandeur and usefulness earned her the nickname the Titanic of the Southern Hemisphere, a vessel that symbolized the peak of Edwardian craftsmanship. Her maiden voyage from London to Sydney in late 1908 was a success. Passengers were enchanted by her luxurious interiors and smooth sailing. The Blue Anchor Line had every reason to celebrate their flagship vessel, which quickly became popular among both travelers and traders. By July of 1909, the Waratah was set for her second voyage. She departed Sydney with 21 passengers and crew on board. The ship was loaded with cargo bound for European markets, and her route included stops in Durban and Cape Town before heading into the Atlantic Ocean. As she sailed across the Indian Ocean, the mood was upbeat. Passengers were enjoying the ship's comforts and the companionship of fellow travelers. However, as the Waratah neared the southern coast of Africa, some concerns began to arise. A few passengers reported that the ship felt unstable in rough seas, listing more than usual. Others spoke of an eerie feeling, an unsettling sensation they couldn't quite explain. These warnings were dismissed by the crew at the time, but they would later take on a much more ominous significance. On the 26th of July, 1909, the Waratah set sail from Durban, heading towards Cape Town. This would be her final voyage. Everything about the ship's departure seemed ordinary. Passengers and crew were eager to reach Cape Town, a key stop on their journey before continuing north to London. The weather was mild, the ship was well stocked, and there were no signs of any trouble ahead. For those aboard, it seemed like just another peaceful stretch of the journey. Around 6 o'clock in the evening on the 27th of July, the Waratah was spotted by the Clan McIntyre, a cargo ship traveling along the same route. The two vessels exchanged their usual signals, and the Waratah appeared to be in good condition, cruising steadily along the South African coastline. This brief sighting would mark the last confirmed glimpse of the ship. After that, she vanished from view, and no one would ever see her again. When the Waratah failed to arrive in Cape Town, the initial reaction was one of caution. Delays at sea were not uncommon in 1909, especially along Africa's southern coast, where unpredictable weather and strong currents posed constant challenges for sailors. However, as the days turned into weeks with no word from the ship, worry turned into alarm. Something had gone terribly wrong. The Blue Anchor Line, which owned the Waratah, quickly launched a search operation. Ships from their fleet, as well as other vessels operating in the area, were redirected to search the waters between Durban and Cape Town. The search covered hundreds of miles of treacherous coastline, focusing on the area where the Waratah had last been seen by the clan McIntyre. Crews were instructed to search for any debris, lifeboats, or survivors, but they found nothing. The challenge was made worse by the Agulhas Current, one of the strongest ocean currents in the world. Flowing southward along Africa's east coast, it meets the cold waters of the Antarctic Circumpolar Current, creating a volatile stretch of ocean. Shipwrecks in this area often leave little trace, as debris is either swept away or dragged deep into underwater canyons. By late August 1909, hope of finding any survivors was fading. Despite the lack of evidence, rumors began to spread. Some claimed to have seen strange lights at sea, suggesting that the Waratah might still be afloat, drifting aimlessly with its passengers and crew alive but stranded. Others speculated that the ship had run aground on a hidden reef or island, waiting for rescue. Theories ranged from the plausible to the fantastical, but none offered any real answers. In September, the Blue Anchor Line organized a second search, this time involving the steamer Wakefield. The Wakefield retraced the Waratah's route, stopping at every known hazard and looking for any signs of the missing ship. Again, the search turned up empty. No wreckage, no bodies, and no clues. The Waratah had vanished as completely as if the ocean had swallowed her whole. Over the years, several more attempts have been made to locate the ship. Modern technologies, like sonar mapping and underwater exploration, have been used to scan the seabed off South Africa. However, the region's challenging conditions have made these searches extremely difficult. The waters near the Agulhas Bank are filled with wrecks, some dating back hundreds of years, making it hard to distinguish the Waratah from other lost ships. To this day, the Waratah has never been found. Her disappearance remains one of the most enduring mysteries in maritime history, a haunting reminder of how vast and unpredictable the ocean can be. The mystery of the Waratah has captivated historians, maritime experts, and enthusiasts for more than a century. Without any wreckage or survivors to provide answers, the fate of the ship has sparked countless theories, some plausible, others downright fantastical. One of the most widely accepted explanations is that the ship, the Waratah, had serious design problems. Reports from her first trip in the year 1908 described the ship as unstable and prone to tipping over in rough seas. Passengers and crew members noticed that the ship seemed too top-heavy, with a high center of gravity that made it more likely to tip over. The Waratah was designed with ambition, trying to blend luxury accommodations with large cargo holds. Some experts believe this combination made the ship unsteady, especially when it was heavily loaded. On her final voyage, the Waratah was carrying a lot of cargo, including large amounts of tallow, coal, and heavy machinery. If this cargo shifted during rough seas, it could have caused the ship to tip over quickly, leaving no time for a distress signal or evacuation. The waters off the southern coast of Africa are known for being unpredictable. The Agulhas Current, along with strong winds and storms, can create enormous rogue waves, walls of water as tall as 100 feet, that appear suddenly and without warning. These waves are powerful enough to sink even the strongest ships, and the Waratah would have been especially vulnerable if she was already unstable. A rogue wave might have hit the Waratah with great force, overwhelming her and pulling her to the ocean floor before the crew could do anything to stop it. This idea is backed up by reports of other ships facing severe conditions in the same area at around the same time as the Waratah's disappearance. While the Waratah's captain, Joshua Ehler, was an experienced sailor, human error can't be completely ruled out. Navigating the dangerous waters off South Africa requires constant attention, and even a tiny mistake could have led to disaster. If the Waratah got too close to the shore or encountered an unknown danger, it could have run aground or been wrecked. Some stories suggest that Captain Iller may have been overly confident in the ship's abilities, brushing aside worries about its stability. Others point out that poor communication or faulty equipment might have played a role in the tragedy. Though less likely, some people have suggested the possibility of sabotage or foul play. The Waratah was carrying valuable cargo, including precious metals, which could have made it a target for pirates. However, there is no evidence to support this idea, and piracy in the region was rare during that time. The Waratah's disappearance has even sparked wilder theories, such as the idea that the ship was swallowed by a supernatural force or disappeared into another dimension. Some people have connected the ship's fate to stories about the Bermuda Triangle, even though the ship vanished thousands of miles away. These theories, while lacking any scientific proof, show the lasting fascination people have with maritime mysteries and the human need to explain the unexplainable. The simplest explanation is that the Waratah sank to the bottom of the ocean, and her wreckage has not been found because the area is so difficult to search. The Agulhas Bank is a dangerous area with strong currents, deep canyons, and a history of shipwrecks. It's possible that the Waratah lies in one of these canyons, hidden from view, waiting to be discovered. Despite numerous searches and many theories, no one knows for sure what happened to the Waratah. Her disappearance is a stark reminder of the ocean's power to keep its secrets, even in an era of advanced technology. For the families of the 2011 people who were on board, the lack of answers is a haunting legacy. The mystery of the Waratah's fate still remains unsolved over a century later. The story of the Waratah isn't just about what might have happened to the ship, but also about what we've learned since. It has changed the way we think about ship design and keeps researchers searching the deep seas for answers, even today. When the Waratah vanished, it forced people to ask tough questions about how ships are built. Back in those days, engineers were pushing the limits, designing and building larger, more ambitious ships that could achieve more than ever before. But sometimes, ambition can get ahead of caution. The Waratah was designed to combine luxury with practicality, serving both as a passenger liner and a cargo ship. However, that balance might have been her downfall. Reports from her first voyage already pointed to problems. People said the ship seemed to lean too much in rough seas and felt unstable, as though it were top-heavy. After her disappearance, these early concerns became a warning about what not to do when designing ships. Engineers learned the hard way and began focusing much more on the importance of weight distribution and stability, lessons that are still crucial today. The tragedy of the Waratah also revealed just how dangerous it is to ignore early warning signs or cut corners. It's one thing to hear that a ship doesn't feel quite right in the water, but it's another thing to ignore those concerns and send her back out into unpredictable seas. The Waratah's story serves as a sharp reminder of how quickly things can go wrong. The Waratah has earned its place in the history books of maritime mysteries, often being mentioned alongside other famous disappearances like the Mary Celeste and the Flying Dutchman. What makes her story so fascinating is the complete lack of evidence. No wreckage, no lifeboats, nothing. It's as if she simply vanished. That kind of mystery captivates the imagination in a way few other stories can. Over the years, her disappearance has inspired many books, documentaries, and investigations. With each passing decade, interest in her story grows. Her story isn't just about one ship. It's a reminder of how vast and unpredictable the ocean is. Even in modern times, with all our technology, the sea can still keep its secrets. The search for the Waratah hasn't stopped, and today's technology is giving researchers tools that would have been unimaginable in the year 1909. Now we have advanced sonar systems, remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, and even underwater drones that can map the ocean floor with incredible precision. These tools have already uncovered shipwrecks that were once thought to be lost forever, so there's hope that the Waratah might eventually be found too. One of the most promising techniques is sonar mapping. By scanning the seabed near the Agulhas Bank, the last place the Waratah was seen, researchers can spot shapes or anomalies that might suggest a wreck. The waters off South Africa are notoriously difficult to search, with strong currents and deep underwater canyons. But sonar can cut through those challenges. If a promising target is identified, ROVs can be sent down to investigate. These underwater robots can capture high-definition footage and even recover artifacts, giving researchers a better view of what might be down there. The Waratah could still be resting, intact, on the seabed, waiting to be found. New technologies like machine learning and artificial intelligence, AI, are also changing the way searches are done. These tools can analyze large amounts of sonar data and detect patterns that might point to a shipwreck. Rather than searching blindly, researchers can focus on the areas that seem most likely to yield results. However, even with all these technological advancements, finding the Waratah is no easy task. The Agulhas current is one of the strongest in the world, capable of dragging wreckage for miles away from the original sinking site. The seabed in that area is also filled with other wrecks, some of which have been there for centuries, making it hard to tell which ship is which. Funding is another challenge. Deep-sea searches are expensive, and without solid leads, it can be tough to convince governments or private organizations to invest in such an uncertain endeavor. Despite these obstacles, the Waratah remains a tantalizing target for researchers. What keeps people coming back to her story is more than just the mystery. It's the human element. The 21 people aboard were not just passengers or crew members, but families, workers, and travelers, each with their own dreams and stories. Their disappearance serves as a powerful reminder of the ocean's unforgiving nature and how little control we have when facing its immense power. Her story also taps into something universal, our fascination with the unknown. How could a ship that large simply disappear? What happened in her final moments? These questions haunt maritime historians and resonate with anyone who has ever wondered about the mysteries hidden beneath the sea. While we may not have the answers yet, the search for the Waratah continues. Each new piece of technology brings us a little closer to solving the puzzle. One day, we might finally uncover the truth about what happened to the Titanic of the Southern Hemisphere. Until then, the Waratah will remain a symbol of the ocean's enduring ability to keep its secrets hidden. Deep in the vast, dark parts of the ocean, so deep that sunlight can never reach and the water pressure is strong enough to crush a human in seconds, something strange is making noise. It's not the usual sounds we know, like the songs of whales or the clicking used by dolphins to see underwater. This sound is something completely different, something scientists still don't fully understand. Out of all the mysterious noises recorded from the deep sea, one sound has stood out and caught the attention of both researchers and curious people around the world. This strange noise has been given a haunting name: Julia. Julia was first heard in the year 1999, thanks to underwater microphones called hydrophones. These special devices were set up a long time ago during the Cold War to secretly listen for Soviet submarines. The hydrophones were part of a listening system stretched across the middle of the Pacific Ocean. When the sound known as Julia was recorded, it was picked up from deep beneath the ocean's surface. What made it especially interesting wasn't just that it was loud. It was very, very loud, strong enough to be heard by microphones hundreds of miles apart, but also that it sounded so different. The noise started with a low tone and quickly rose to a higher one, creating a sound pattern that scientists call an upsweep. To us humans, if you speed it up many times faster than how it was originally heard, it sounds like a ghostly moan or a long, eerie cry that rises in pitch before slowly fading away. This spooky sound quality is probably why someone gave it the name Julia. No one knows for sure where that name came from. Some think it might have been named after a scientist's wife or girlfriend, while others believe it could be connected to the month of July, though official records show it was actually heard in March. What makes Julia and other unexplained deep-sea sounds so mysterious is that no one knows exactly what caused it. The ocean is full of noise from many sources: animals like whales and fish, natural events like underwater earthquakes or volcanoes, and even noise from human activities like ships, oil drilling, and military operations. But Julia doesn't match any of these common sound patterns perfectly. The fact that Julia was so loud makes it even more puzzling. For hydrophones spread far apart to all pick it up, whatever made the noise must have been extremely powerful, or the sound was able to travel an unusually long way through the water. Sound can move much farther through water than through air, especially in certain parts of the ocean where the temperature and pressure allow sound to travel more easily and farther. So it's possible that a very strong sound could be heard across huge distances in the sea. Scientists have come up with several ideas to explain what Julia might be. Some are simple and logical, while others are more imaginative. One of the more common explanations is that it might have been caused by a huge iceberg scraping against the ocean floor. When a massive chunk of ice hits the seabed, it can make deep, booming noises. The rising pitch in the sound might come from the ice breaking or cracking as it hits the bottom. Another possible explanation for the mystery of Julia involves underwater volcanic activity. The Pacific Ocean, especially along the Ring of Fire, is home to many undersea volcanoes, several of which are active. Eruptions, the movement of magma, or even the violent clash between hot magma and cold seawater might create sounds that resemble Julia's. However, the problem with this theory is that most volcanic sounds recorded so far don't match the specific pattern of frequency shifts that Julia produces. Seismic events, such as underwater earthquakes, have also been suggested as possible sources of the sound. The shifting of tectonic plates beneath the ocean floor can generate a lot of acoustic energy. Depending on the type of fault movement and the geological features around it, these events could create sounds with different frequencies. Yet, seismic events usually create sudden, explosive sounds, unlike the gradual rising tone that Julia displays. Some researchers have even proposed that Julia could be biological in nature, possibly the call of an unknown marine creature. The oceans are one of the least explored places on Earth, and scientists estimate that we have discovered less than 1/5 of all marine species. The deep ocean, in particular, continues to reveal new discoveries every time it's explored. Could it be possible that Julia is the sound of an enormous, undiscovered creature living in the depths? While this might sound like something out of a science fiction film, it's worth noting that the blue whale, the largest animal to ever live on Earth, is a marine creature. Its vocalizations can travel hundreds of miles underwater. Other whale species are known to produce complex songs and calls that change in frequency and pattern. However, marine biologists point out that Julia doesn't match any known whale species, and the sound's strength would suggest a creature larger than even the blue whale, which seems unlikely given our increasingly thorough studies of large marine life. A twist on the biological theory suggests that Julia might not be the voice of a single animal, but rather the combined sound of a large group of creatures vocalizing together. It's possible that a previously unknown species of squid or fish could be making this sound during mass spawning or migration. Many marine species are known to gather in huge groups for such purposes, and such collective behavior could create unique acoustic patterns that don't match the sounds made by individual animals. Some more unusual explanations have also been proposed, though these ideas are outside the realm of mainstream science. A few have suggested that Julia might be the result of unknown technology deep in the ocean. This could involve secret military experiments or, in the most speculative scenarios, technology of extraterrestrial origin. While there is no credible evidence to support these far-fetched ideas, they highlight how mysterious phenomena can often lead to imaginative explanations when more conventional ones seem insufficient. The mystery of Julia is made even more intriguing by the fact that it's not a one-time occurrence. Similar sounds have been detected several times since the first recording in 1999, although they don't appear with regularity. This irregular pattern complicates the search for an explanation, as it hints at a source that is neither entirely random nor predictably cyclical. The puzzle of Julia is further complicated by the extreme difficulties involved in deep ocean exploration. The areas where these sounds have been detected are often in remote regions of the ocean, far from land, and in waters that can be thousands of meters deep. Conducting expeditions to such places is incredibly expensive and logistically challenging. Special vessels and equipment capable of withstanding intense pressure are required, and these missions also demand a lot of time. As a result, direct investigation of the possible sources of these sounds has been limited. One of the challenges in investigating strange ocean sounds is the way sound travels through water. Unlike in air, where sound waves move in clear, simple paths, the acoustics of the ocean are influenced by many complicated factors. These include the temperature of the water, its salinity, the pressure, and the various layers and currents within the ocean. These elements can cause sound waves to bend, bounce, or change in ways that make it difficult to figure out exactly where the sound came from, even when multiple recording stations are used. The way scientists have approached the mystery of Julia shows how carefully they tackle unexplained events. Rather than jumping to wild or dramatic explanations, oceanographers, marine biologists, and acoustic experts have been taking their time to study the sound's qualities. They've been comparing it to known sounds and looking for natural causes that could create similar patterns. Though this careful approach might not be as exciting as other theories, it is the most reliable way to eventually solve the puzzle. Julia isn't the only mysterious sound ever recorded in the world's oceans. In 1997, no AA hydrophones picked up another puzzling sound called the bloop. This sound was a powerful, very low-frequency noise that quickly rose in pitch, much like Julia's sound, but with its own unique features. At first, the bloop sparked a lot of curiosity because its sound patterns seemed to resemble that of a living creature, one that would have to be much larger than even the biggest animal known to exist, the blue whale. After several years of research, scientists concluded that the bloop was most likely the result of a huge ice carving event where a giant chunk of ice from Antarctica broke off from a glacier or ice shelf. This theory was supported by the sound's location, which was traced back to an area near Antarctica, known for these ice-breaking events. The solution to the bloop mystery gives hope that Julia might also have a natural explanation, even if we haven't found it yet. Another famous ocean sound, known as the slowdown, was recorded in 1997, just a few months before the bloop. As its name suggests, the slowdown sound lasted about 7 minutes, gradually decreasing in frequency, which is the opposite of Julia's rising sound. Like Julia, the slowdown hasn't been fully explained, but many scientists believe it could be linked to ice-related events. Perhaps the most persistent unexplained sound is the so-called upsweep. First detected in 1991, this sound still occasionally appears. It consists of a series of rising, narrow sounds, each lasting several seconds. What makes the upsweep particularly intriguing is its seasonal pattern. The sound is more common during the spring and fall, which has led some researchers to think it might be connected to the natural warming and cooling cycles of the ocean. These changes could be moving underwater structures or affecting how sound behaves in waters of different temperatures. The fact that many of these unexplained sounds are found in the Pacific Ocean, especially near the equator and the Southern Ocean, suggests that there may be special geological or oceanographic conditions in these areas that make them more likely to produce unusual sounds. The Pacific Ring of Fire, with its intense volcanic and seismic activity, creates a unique underwater environment, one that could produce sounds unlike those in other parts of the ocean. In recent years, new technology has been improving how scientists monitor underwater sounds. More advanced hydrophones, placed in greater numbers and spread out over wider areas, allow for more accurate identification and triangulation of sound sources. These developments give scientists better tools to investigate Julia and other mysterious ocean noises. Machine learning algorithms are now being used to analyze huge amounts of ocean sound data, helping researchers categorize and compare acoustic patterns in ways that humans might miss. These algorithms could uncover hidden patterns in the sounds of the ocean. Autonomous underwater vehicles, which are equipped with special sound sensors, are also making it easier for scientists to explore areas where unusual sounds have been detected. These vehicles can move around and collect data in places where traditional underwater microphones, known as hydrophones, cannot reach. They can be programmed to follow specific search paths or focus on sounds that match certain patterns, essentially acting as detectives of underwater noises. Another exciting approach is connecting sound data with other ocean measurements like water temperature, current patterns, seismic activity, and even biological surveys from places and times when a sound like Julia's was heard. Researchers are hoping to discover environmental factors that could explain the sound's occurrence, possibly helping to pinpoint its source. The mystery of Julia is a reminder of how vast and largely unexplored our oceans are. Despite centuries of seafaring and decades of scientific study, we have only observed less than 5% of the ocean floor in high detail. The deep ocean is one of the last truly unknown frontiers on Earth, with new species, geological features, and natural phenomena being discovered regularly. This sense of the unknown extends to the world of sound as well. The ocean is filled with a complex mix of noises, many of which we are just beginning to catalogue. Before underwater microphones were used for military and scientific purposes, most of these sounds went unheard by humans, existing in an acoustic world beyond our ability to detect or understand. What makes Julia especially fascinating is not just that it's an unsolved scientific puzzle, but that it taps into something deeper within us. Our curiosity about the unknown, especially when it comes from environments as strange and unreachable as the deep ocean, is powerful. There's something captivating about the idea of an unidentified sound echoing through the dark depths, a mysterious call coming from a place where humans cannot survive. This intrigue with unexplained ocean sounds has found its way into popular culture, inspiring movies, books, and even music based on recordings like Julia. These creative works often emphasize the eerie nature of the sounds, playing into our natural fear of the dark and the unknown. While these dramatizations may not always be scientifically accurate, they show just how strongly these mysteries grip our imaginations. For scientists, however, Julia isn't just an oddity. It's a chance to expand our knowledge of ocean acoustics and discover new natural phenomena. Studying such sounds pushes researchers to create better monitoring tools, develop more advanced analysis methods, and build better models for how sound behaves in the complex ocean environment. Understanding Julia and other unexplained sounds also has practical value. The ocean plays an increasingly important role in human activities, from shipping and resource extraction to military operations and scientific research. Unexplained sounds could interfere with technologies like sonar systems, underwater communications, and other equipment that depends on predictable sound behavior. If researchers can identify the source of Julia, it could improve the reliability of these systems. From a conservation perspective, understanding the ocean's acoustic environment is vital for effective environmental protection. If Julia turns out to have a biological source, it might uncover new details about marine ecosystems. Even if the sound comes from geological activity, understanding how such noises travel through the ocean could help us better monitor the health of marine environments and the effects of human actions on them. As research continues, it's possible that the mystery of Julia will eventually be solved, just like other phenomena, such as the bloop, which were once unexplained but are now understood. However, it's also possible that some ocean sounds will remain a mystery forever, their sources too far, too rare, or too complex for our current technology to uncover. Either outcome reflects the nature of scientific exploration, a continuous journey of questioning, investigation, and gradually expanding the limits of human knowledge. In this way, Julia represents more than just a strange sound. It symbolizes humanity's ongoing effort to understand the world, especially its most mysterious and remote corners. For now, Julia remains an unidentified sound, one of many catalogued by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, and other oceanographic organizations. Recordings of Julia continue to be studied, compared with new data, and analyzed with increasingly advanced methods. Somewhere in this meticulous scientific process, or perhaps in a future mission to place sensors closer to the sound's source, lies the key to finally understanding what causes this eerie call from the depths. Until then, Julia continues to echo through both the physical ocean and the collective curiosity of humankind, reminding us that even in an era of satellite mapping and global communication, the natural world still holds secrets waiting to be uncovered. As we peer into the ocean's vastness, listening to its strange and unexplained voices, we are not only confronted with the limits of our knowledge, but also with the endless potential for discovery that has always drawn humans to explore the unknown. Perhaps most powerfully, Julia reminds us that some of the greatest mysteries of all do not come from what we can see, but from what we can hear. Sounds traveling through the darkness hold information about events and processes that are hidden from our direct view. In the world of ocean acoustics, we are like ancient astronomers, trying to understand distant phenomena not through direct observation, but by carefully studying the signals that reach us across vast distances. Just as astronomy has shown us a universe far stranger and more wondrous than our ancestors ever imagined, the study of ocean sounds may one day reveal parts of our planet we've never dreamed of. Far beneath the freezing waters of the Antarctic Ocean, where temperatures drop well below 0 degrees Celsius and massive icebergs cast long shadows into the deep, sailors and scientists have reported something extraordinary, a creature so strange and unsettling that it challenges everything we thought we knew about life in Earth's most remote waters. They call it the Ningen, a Japanese word meaning human. The name feels strangely fitting, as those who claim to have seen it describe a being that is anything but ordinary. This creature is enormous, pale, and eerily humanoid, a ghostly giant that appears to observe from the cold, dark depths around Antarctica. The first sightings of the Ningen began emerging in the early 2000s, mostly from Japanese fishing crews working in the Antarctic waters. These were seasoned sailors, men and women who had spent their lives at sea and were familiar with the usual marine life: whales, sharks, rays, and other large sea creatures. But what they described encountering was unlike anything they had ever seen before. According to their stories, late at night, when the Antarctic darkness was at its deepest, they saw enormous white shapes moving beneath the surface. The creatures they reported seeing were estimated to be between 20 and 30 meters long, and they had distinct human-like features. What makes these Ningen sightings so striking is the consistency in the descriptions. Witnesses describe the creature as having a face that looks almost human, with eyes and a mouth clearly visible. Its body is smooth and white, much like the flesh of a beluga whale, but with appendages that resemble human arms. In some accounts, the Ningen even has 5-fingered hands. Some reports mention webbed fingers, while others speak of a mermaid-like lower body that ends in a large whale-like tail. The overall impression is of a creature caught between two worlds, neither fully human nor fully fish, but a strange hybrid of both. Of course, skeptics offer plenty of alternative explanations. The Antarctic waters are home to many large sea creatures, including various species of whales. A pale beluga whale, an albino southern right whale, or even an unusually shaped iceberg could easily be mistaken for something more unusual, especially in the low visibility conditions that are common in the Antarctic. Deep-sea exploration is notoriously difficult, and light can play tricks on the human eye. The mind often fills in the gaps, imagining shapes that aren't really there. There's also the phenomenon of pareidolia, which is the human tendency to see faces and human features in random patterns. We're naturally wired to recognize human forms, which is why we often see faces in clouds or the man in the moon. When confronted with an unfamiliar sea creature in dim light, it's easy for the human mind to interpret vague features as something familiar, like a humanoid shape. However, those who believe in the Ningen aren't easily convinced by these explanations. They point to the consistency of the descriptions, the credibility of the witnesses, and the fact that these sightings come from multiple, independent sources. They also emphasize that the deep ocean is still one of the least explored parts of our planet, with new species being discovered regularly. If creatures like the giant squid, once thought to be pure myth, could remain elusive to scientists until just a few years ago, what else might be lurking in the vast, dark waters of the Earth? Some supporters of the Ningen theory go even further, linking it to other stories of humanoid sea creatures from folklore across the world. Almost every coastal culture has tales of merfolk or sea gods, from the Greek sirens to the Japanese kappa to the Inuit Kalapalik. Could these widespread myths be based on actual sightings of creatures like the Ningen? It's an intriguing, though speculative, idea. Others argue that the harsh and isolated environment of the Antarctic Ocean might be the perfect setting for an entirely unique form of life to evolve, unlike anything we have encountered before. For about 30 million years, the waters surrounding Antarctica have been separated from the rest of the world by the Antarctic circumpolar current. This has created a unique and isolated environment where life could have evolved in ways we can't fully imagine. These icy seas are known for their high levels of oxygen and rich nutrients, which could support larger creatures than we might find in other places on Earth. Recently, scientists have discovered that there could be more than 200 species of fish, known as cryopelagic fish, that are specially adapted to live their entire lives in the narrow space between the sea ice and the surface of the ocean. If such unique environments can support entire communities of unknown creatures, who knows what other paths of evolution could have unfolded deep below the ice? One of the most intriguing parts of this mystery is the creature called the Ningen. Some people claim to have seen or even photographed the Ningen, which is described as a large humanoid figure. A few blurry images of long, white shapes in dark water have appeared online, but critics argue that these images could be of known animals or even altered digitally. In today's world of easy photo editing, it's hard to trust what we see. Despite the rise of cameras and new technology, no clear, undeniable image of the Ningen has surfaced. Even without solid proof, the Ningen has become a legend on the internet. It has been discussed in online forums, featured in YouTube videos, and included in cryptozoology websites. It even made its way into manga and anime, becoming part of modern folklore. In Japan, where the Ningen myth began, it is often talked about alongside other mysterious creatures like Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster. These are animals that are also part of the national mysteries and are discussed as cryptids, creatures that are believed to exist but have not been proven to. But what would it mean if the Ningen was real? Finding a large, intelligent humanoid species living in the ocean would change everything we know about evolution and biology. It would open up questions about convergent evolution, which is when different species develop similar traits because they face similar challenges in their environment. Could the deep sea somehow encourage the development of humanoid features? While it seems unlikely based on what we know about biology, our understanding of deep sea life is still limited. There are also environmental concerns. If such a large, unknown species does exist, why is it so rare? Could it be on the verge of extinction, with its habitat threatened by things like climate change, overfishing, or human activities? The warming of Antarctic waters and changing sea ice patterns could be putting pressure on all the species living there, including ones we've never even discovered yet. For now, the Ningen remains firmly in the realm of cryptozoology, not science. No one has captured one, no DNA samples have been collected, and no studies have been published to confirm its existence. Still, the legend continues to persist, keeping alive the possibility, however slim, that something extraordinary might be swimming in the cold waters of Antarctica. Perhaps the true value of the Ningen myth is that it reminds us there are still places on Earth that are so remote, so extreme, and so unexplored that they might hide creatures we haven't yet found or understood. In a world where it sometimes feels like we've mapped and studied every corner of the planet, the idea of the Ningen gives us a glimpse into the mysteries that still remain. Whether the Ningen is ever proven to exist or not, the story reflects our ongoing fascination with the deep ocean and the unknown creatures that might be living there, out of sight and beyond our understanding. It ties into ancient human fears and curiosities about the sea, that vast, powerful, and mysterious place that has always been both life-giving and dangerous, familiar yet strange. From the legendary beasts shown on old maps to the modern mystery of the Ningen, we continue to imagine strange creatures in the depths, reflecting our complex relationship with the vast, unexplored waters of the world. Next time you find yourself gazing out over the vast ocean, especially in a quiet, remote place, far away from any people, take a moment to wonder what might be watching you from beneath the waves. Could it be just the familiar sea creatures we've come to know? Or might there be something else down there? Something with intelligent eyes and a face that almost looks human, silently observing from the cold depths of the sea where very few humans have ever set foot. The legend of the Ningen encourages us to keep that question alive, to welcome the idea that there is still room for mystery and awe in a world that often feels like it has no space left for the truly unknown. Emerging from the mysterious depths of World War II, this is the story of the phantom submarines, mysterious, unseen hunters that stalked coastal waters, bewildered Allied forces, and continue to leave us wondering what really happened beneath the waves. World War II wasn't just a battle fought on land or in the sky, it also took place across the vast oceans, where the stakes were just as high and the risks just as unpredictable. From the freezing waters of the North Atlantic to the warm stretches of the Pacific, submarines played a crucial role in the war. These stealthy, silent hunters lurked beneath the surface, disrupting supply lines, sinking enemy ships, and sometimes even altering the outcome of entire battles. But as this tense underwater war raged on, strange stories began to emerge. Stories that were as mysterious as they were unsettling. Naval crews, merchant sailors, and military officials reported seeing submarines where none should have been. These weren't just whispers among sailors. These sightings were carefully recorded, tracked, and, in some cases, engaged by Allied forces. Yet, the vessels responsible seemed to defy all logic. The term phantom submarine soon began to spread, especially among crews who had encountered these mysterious sightings firsthand. These weren't the usual German U-boats or Japanese I-class submarines. The vessels appeared to be faster, more agile, and capable of disappearing without a trace. Sometimes they would vanish from radar screens, moving at speeds that the technology of the time couldn't explain. Other times, ships would engage a target, drop depth charges, and find nothing. No wreckage, no oil slick, no debris. It was as if these submarines had simply evaporated into the ocean. What added to the mystery was that these sightings weren't limited to one specific location. In the icy waters of the North Atlantic, patrol crews near Iceland and Scotland reported strange sonar contacts that seemed to play tricks on them. In the North Sea, cargo ships were followed by silent, dark shapes. Even in the warmer waters of the Pacific, US destroyers encountered underwater vessels that moved so quickly they couldn't be pursued. This wasn't just a series of random events, but rather a pattern that stretched across different theaters of war and throughout the years. For naval commanders, these strange reports raised a chilling question. What were these submarines? Were they new experimental weapons, enemy vessels, or something entirely different? And perhaps the most unsettling question of all, why couldn't they be caught? One of the earliest and most disturbing encounters happened in the year 1942 off the coast of Iceland. A British destroyer, which was patrolling the area to watch for German submarines, detected an unusual object on its sonar. The object was huge, much larger than any submarine known at the time, and it moved with surprising speed and agility, which seemed impossible for something so big. The crew thought they had discovered a new kind of enemy submarine, so they got ready for a fight. They dropped depth charges, and explosions shook the cold, icy waters. But then, silence. When the crew looked out to scan the surface, they found nothing. There was no wreckage, no oil slick, and no sign of a submarine. It was as if the submarine had never been there at all. This wasn't an isolated event. Around the same time, a Norwegian cargo ship reported being followed for several days by an unknown submarine in the North Sea. The crew noticed that the submarine would surface at night, staying just out of sight but still following them at a distance. Its presence seemed almost ghostly. When the crew tried to call for help, they got only static, a trick often used by German submarines to block communication. But when Allied ships came to check, they found no trace of the mysterious vessel. It had vanished as suddenly as it had appeared. In the Pacific, the encounters became even stranger. Near Guadalcanal in the year 1943, a US destroyer picked up sonar readings of a fast-moving object beneath the water. The crew, trained to deal with Japanese submarines, was shocked by how quickly the target was moving and how skillfully it avoided their attacks. They fired torpedoes, but the target seemed to anticipate every move, dodging each shot. Eventually, the object vanished from their radar, leaving the crew confused and baffled. The pattern in these encounters was always the same: an unidentified submarine behaving in ways that no known vessel could match, followed by a sudden and complete disappearance. These weren't the types of events that could easily be written off as mistakes or overactive imaginations. The crews had been trained to recognize submarines and tell the difference between natural occurrences and real threats. The accuracy and consistency of the reports made them impossible to ignore. But some encounters were even stranger. Some sailors described a strange feeling of being watched or followed, even when no submarine was visible. There were reports of eerie lights glowing faintly beneath the water before disappearing into the deep. In one case, a ship's hydrophone operator, whose job was to listen for underwater sounds, reported hearing faint, metallic whispers echoing through the water. No one could explain where the sound came from, adding to the mystery. The locations of these encounters were just as intriguing. The North Atlantic was a hotspot, especially in areas known for their rough seas and unpredictable weather. The waters off the coast of South Africa, near the Agulhas Bank, were also the site of many unexplained events, as were parts of the Pacific Ocean near Japan and the Philippines. These regions shared one thing in common: they were vast, isolated, and hard to patrol, making them ideal hiding places for anything or anyone trying to avoid being detected. One particularly chilling event took place in the year 1944 near the Yonaguni Islands. A Japanese cargo ship reported being followed by an unknown submarine for more than 48 hours. The crew, unable to shake off their mysterious pursuer, eventually abandoned the ship, fearing an attack. But when Allied forces arrived to investigate, they found the cargo ship drifting peacefully, completely untouched. There was no sign of the mysterious submarine. It had disappeared without a trace. As more and more of these strange encounters were reported, more questions arose. If these submarines were new enemy designs, why weren't they being used more widely? If they weren't enemy vessels, then what were they? And perhaps the most unsettling question of all, how could something so large and advanced vanish without leaving any evidence? Even after the war had ended, the mystery persisted, refusing to fade away. As time passed, declassified naval records came to light, revealing even more encounters, some of which had been kept secret to avoid causing panic or exposing weaknesses in the Navy's defense systems. However, these records didn't provide any clear answers. Instead, they offered more confusing pieces to the puzzle. The phantom submarines remained elusive, slipping through the gaps of both history and logic. The reports of these phantom submarines during World War II have puzzled naval historians and enthusiasts for decades. Unlike other wartime mysteries, which usually point to a single cause, the phenomenon of phantom submarines is so strange and varied that it has sparked numerous theories. Some of these theories are based on real facts, while others veer into the realm of fantasy. One of the most popular theories is that these mysterious submarines were experimental enemy designs, part of a secret arms race that pushed the boundaries of technology. Germany and Japan, in particular, were known to be working on advanced submarine prototypes. For example, the German Type 21 U-boat was a revolutionary design, boasting superior speed and the ability to stay submerged for much longer than other submarines of the time. This electric boat was considered to be years ahead of its time and is often thought to be the blueprint for modern submarines. Similarly, Japan's Type 5400 submarines were engineering marvels. These were the largest submarines built during the war and were designed to carry and launch aircraft, a concept that was unheard of at the time. Could some of these advanced submarines have been secretly deployed during the war, operating in waters where they weren't expected? It's possible, but even these cutting-edge designs had limitations. They couldn't match the speeds or the evasive maneuvers described in many of the encounters, leaving this theory with many unanswered questions. Another plausible theory is that these submarines could have belonged to new neutral nations or rogue operators carrying out secret missions. Sweden, for example, had a fleet of submarines during the war, and its position in the Baltic Sea made it a key player in gathering intelligence. Some speculate that neutral countries may have quietly operated submarines in contested waters, either for espionage or to protect their own interests. However, this theory also raises its own questions. Neutral nations would have been very cautious about operating in wartime zones, as it could have jeopardized their neutrality. Additionally, there is little evidence to suggest that any neutral or rogue submarines were capable of the feats described in these encounters. Skeptics argue that many of these sightings could have been caused by misidentifications. Wartime conditions, including stress, fatigue, and poor visibility, could have led sailors to mistake natural phenomena for enemy submarines. Large schools of fish, underwater volcanic activity, or even drifting debris might have been mistaken for a submarine's movements. The technology of the time also had its limitations. Sonar and radar systems were relatively primitive and prone to errors, often producing false positives or glitches. Some sonar operators might have picked up reflections from underwater terrain or noise from marine life, mistaking them for enemy vessels. While this theory could explain some incidents, it doesn't account for the more detailed and consistent accounts of evasive maneuvers, jamming signals, and other sophisticated behaviors. These precise descriptions are difficult to dismiss as mere mistakes or illusions. Then there are the theories that venture into the unknown. Some researchers suggest that these submarines could have been part of secret projects so advanced that they remain classified even today. Could governments have developed technology during World War II that was decades ahead of its time, only to keep it hidden after the war? It's not impossible. Many Cold War innovations had their roots in experimental wartime projects, and it's conceivable that some designs were abandoned or considered too risky to reveal. Some take this theory even further, speculating that the phantom submarines might not have been human creations at all. The idea of unidentified submerged objects, USOs, which are essentially UFOs underwater, has gained attention in recent years. Supporters of this idea suggest that the incredible speed, agility, and ability of these vessels to disappear quickly could indicate technology far beyond what humans are capable of. Although this theory is not widely accepted, it highlights the deep mystery surrounding these strange encounters. Another fascinating possibility is that some of these reports were part of intentional disinformation campaigns during the Second World War. Psychological warfare was a key tool, and spreading rumors about advanced enemy technology could have caused fear and confusion among Allied forces. It's possible that some reports were exaggerated or even made up to serve this purpose. However, this theory doesn't explain the widespread nature of these sightings or the striking similarity of descriptions from different people. The mystery of the so-called phantom submarines of World War II has had a lasting impact, not only on naval history, but also on our understanding of the ocean as a vast and enigmatic frontier. These encounters remind us of how little we truly know about the depths of the sea and what could be hiding there. Despite decades of progress in technology, the ocean still holds secrets that remain beyond our understanding. The reports of phantom submarines influenced naval strategies and policies during the war. The fear of encountering unknown or superior technology pushed navies to develop new methods. They invested heavily in research on sonar, anti-submarine tactics, and countermeasures. These advancements form the foundation for modern underwater warfare and the technologies that are still used today. The mystery also revealed the challenges of monitoring the oceans. Even with today's sophisticated sonar systems and satellite tracking, vast stretches of the ocean remain largely unobserved. The idea that something or someone could move undetected in these waters is not just possible, it is likely. In recent years, there has been a renewed interest in the mysteries of World War II, prompting researchers to take another look at the phantom submarine phenomenon. Declassified military documents, combined with advances in sonar and underwater exploration, have given us new insights into some of these incidents. Still, many remain unsolved. Could the phantom submarines have been prototypes that sank or were taken out of service before their secrets could be uncovered? Could they still lie on the ocean floor, waiting to be found? These questions continue to fuel investigations and searches, keeping the mystery alive. What makes the story of the phantom submarine so compelling is its universal appeal. It's not just about warfare or technology, it's about humanity's fascination with the unknown. These submarines are more than just a wartime enigma. They are symbols of the ocean's powerful ability to keep its secrets. From sailors who once saw shadows beneath the waves to modern researchers exploring the seabed, the allure of these mysteries remains as strong as ever. As long as the ocean keeps hiding its secrets, the story of the phantom submarines will continue to be a haunting reminder of what we have yet to uncover. In the year 2007, a 9.8-meter catamaran, known as the Cas 2, was discovered hauntingly deserted in the crystal-clear waters of the Great Barrier Reef. This mysterious case quickly earned the nickname Australia's Mary Celeste, as the disappearance of the boat's experienced crew baffled investigators and intrigued amateur detectives alike. How could 3 men vanish without a trace from a stable, well-equipped vessel in perfect sailing conditions? What had happened to the crew members aboard? The Cas 2 wasn't meant for global headlines. It was a modest but reliable catamaran, measuring just under 10 meters, the kind you'd expect to see gliding peacefully across the stunning turquoise waters of the Australian coast. Built for comfort and ease, it was perfect for leisurely sailing and long coastal journeys. The boat belonged to 56-year-old Derek Batten, who considered it his pride and joy, a vessel designed to explore the breathtaking coastline of Australia, not to become part of one of the nation's greatest maritime mysteries. On the 15th of April, 2007, Derek set off on what was supposed to be the adventure of a lifetime. Accompanying him were his 2 close friends, Peter and James Tunstead, brothers who shared his passion for the sea. Derek was an experienced sailor, having spent years navigating the waters around Australia. While the Tunstead brothers weren't as seasoned, they were no strangers to the ocean. Together, the trio had planned to sail the Cas 2 from Shoalhaven Harbour in Queensland to Perth, located on the western coast. It was to be a journey through some of the world's most beautiful, yet sometimes challenging waters. Their plan was simple: follow the coastline, stop at ports along the way, and enjoy the sights. This was not a race. It was about the experience, the camaraderie, and the joy of sailing across the open sea. For Derek, Peter, and James, this journey was a chance to relax, bond, and take in the awe-inspiring beauty of the Great Barrier Reef and beyond. They made sure the boat was stocked with supplies, checked all their gear, and confirmed that the Cas 2 was seaworthy for the long trip ahead. On the morning of the 15th of April, 2007, the day dawned clear and bright. With the sun shining down, the Cas 2 set sail from Shoalhaven Harbour, its sails filled with the wind and its crew in high spirits. Local witnesses saw the three men on deck, waving as they sailed by. The sea was calm, the weather forecast was perfect, and the atmosphere was one of excitement and adventure. For those on shore, it was just another peaceful day in paradise. However, the sea, as it often does, has a way of transforming paradise into something completely different. By the time the Cas 2 disappeared over the horizon, the boat was unknowingly heading toward a journey that would puzzle investigators, haunt maritime historians, and leave behind a trail of unanswered questions. 3 days later, on the 18th of April, 2007, a helicopter pilot flying over the Great Barrier Reef spotted the Cas 2. At first, the boat appeared to be sailing smoothly, its white sails standing out against the endless blue of the ocean. But as the pilot watched more closely, something seemed strange. The boat wasn't moving in a steady direction. Instead, it was drifting aimlessly, its sails flapping loosely in the wind. This unusual sighting was quickly reported, and maritime authorities dispatched a rescue crew to investigate. When the rescue team boarded the Cas 2, they were met with a scene that was both eerie and baffling. The boat was intact. There were no signs of damage or distress. The engine was still running, humming gently as if the crew had only just stepped away. The onboard GPS and radio systems were functioning perfectly. But the most important feature of the boat, the crew, was nowhere to be found. Inside the cabin, everything appeared to have been frozen in time. A half-empty cup of coffee sat on the table next to a neat pile of folded clothes. A laptop was open, its screen glowing faintly. The ship's logbook contained recent entries, with the last one recorded just hours before the Cas 2 was discovered. In the kitchen, utensils and provisions were neatly arranged, untouched. A fishing line trailed from the back of the boat, still attached to a lure, sparkling in the sunlight. Despite the unnerving normalcy of the scene, there were a few small clues that hinted at possible trouble. One of the sails was torn and flapping unevenly in the wind. A life ring was missing, though the life jackets were still aboard. But beyond these minor details, there was nothing to suggest what might have happened to Derek, Peter, and James. No blood, no signs of a struggle, and no damage to the boat that would indicate a collision or capsizing. It was as if the men had simply vanished into thin air. The Cas 2 was not a rundown boat, it was a fully functioning vessel, calmly floating on peaceful waters, with all of its systems intact. The fact that the crew was missing only made the situation more puzzling. Why had they left the boat? Where had they gone? And most confusing of all, why hadn't they used any of the distress signals or emergency equipment on board? Immediately, authorities launched a search and rescue mission, scouring the area around the Cas 2 for any signs of the missing men. Planes, helicopters, and boats searched the waters, covering hundreds of square miles. But the ocean is vast, and the Great Barrier Reef, with its intricate maze of coral reefs and channels, is one of the most challenging places to search. Days turned into weeks, but the search brought no results, no bodies, no wreckage, no answers. The discovery of the Cas 2, with its crew nowhere to be found, sent shockwaves throughout Australia. The media quickly labelled it Australia's Mary Celeste, drawing eerie comparisons to the famous ghost ship discovered in the Atlantic Ocean in the 19th century. Both vessels had been found in perfect condition, with no sign of their crews, and both left behind a trail of mystery and unanswered questions that still baffle investigators to this day. For the families of Derek, Peter, and James, the finding of the Cas 2 didn't bring closure. Instead, it marked the start of a long and painful wait for answers that have never come. How could 3 experienced sailors vanish from a stable, seaworthy boat under calm conditions? What happened in the 3 days between their departure and the discovery of the boat? And perhaps most chillingly, why had they left the boat at all? As investigators delved into the details, the mystery only deepened. The lack of clear evidence meant that every piece of information, or lack thereof, became vital in piecing together what might have occurred. However, each new clue seemed to raise even more questions rather than narrow down the possibilities. Authorities examined the GPS logs from the boat in an attempt to reconstruct the events before the crew disappeared. The logs revealed that the Cas 2 had been moving normally until April 16th, the day after it left Shoalhaven Harbor. On that day, the boat's movements became erratic. Instead of following a straight path, it appeared to drift aimlessly, at times even circling back on itself. This strange pattern continued until the boat was found on April 18th. One of the most baffling clues was the fishing line trailing from the back of the boat. It suggested that at least one of the men had been fishing before they vanished. Could one of them have fallen overboard while trying to reel in a fish? If so, why didn't the others throw a life ring or use the emergency equipment to rescue him? And why were the life jackets still untouched? The condition of the boat itself didn't provide many answers either. The torn sails seemed to hint at rough weather or a sudden storm, but weather reports for the area showed that the seas were calm and the conditions were mild during the time of the disappearance. The engine, still running, and the well-kept cabin suggested that whatever happened, it had been unexpected and sudden. There were no signs that the men had been preparing to abandon ship, making their absence even more mysterious. Authorities also considered the possibility of foul play. Could another vessel have intercepted the crew? Piracy, while rare in Australian waters, couldn't be entirely ruled out. However, the boat showed no signs of a struggle, and nothing of value appeared to be missing. The idea of an external threat seemed unlikely, but it couldn't be dismissed. Another unsettling theory was that of a freak accident. The boat's location near the Great Barrier Reef raised the possibility that a rogue wave or a sudden gust of wind might have swept the crew overboard. The torn sails seemed to support this idea, suggesting that the boat had encountered harsher conditions than originally reported. But again, this begged the question: why didn't the men use the life jackets or activate the distress signal? One of the most unsettling theories about what happened to the Cas 2 crew suggests that a series of small, unrelated events led to a terrible disaster. It's possible that one of the men fell overboard while fishing, and in their desperate attempts to save him, the others also got lost. This chain of events could explain the eerie calmness on board when the boat was discovered, the engine running, clothes neatly folded, and the laptop still open. It wasn't the result of a single, catastrophic event, but rather a slow unraveling of circumstances that left the boat drifting aimlessly and its crew mysteriously gone. Despite thorough investigations, no one has been able to find any definitive answers. The vast, unforgiving ocean holds its secrets tightly. The Cas 2 has become a haunting symbol of how even the most experienced sailors can disappear without a trace, leaving only questions behind. The boat now serves as a stark reminder of how quickly the sea can turn from serene to deadly. For the families of Derek, Peter, and James, the Cas 2 has become a symbol of their grief and unanswered questions. The lack of closure is a wound that time cannot heal. The boat itself, forever linked to their memories, stands as a reminder of how unpredictable and dangerous the ocean can be, even when conditions are calm and the vessel is well equipped. The Cas 2 has earned its place in maritime history, often being compared to the infamous Mary Celeste. Both tales share a chilling similarity: intact ships found drifting with no crew aboard. While the Mary Celeste was a mystery from the 19th century, the Cas 2 is a modern enigma, unfolding in an age of advanced technology and communication. The fact that such a disappearance could happen in the year 2007 under calm conditions, with a well-equipped boat, makes it all the more unsettling for the families involved. Despite extensive searches and investigations, no trace of the men has ever been found. The ocean's vastness continues to guard its secrets, and for their loved ones, the lack of closure remains an open wound. The Cas too has become a cautionary tale for sailors and adventurers, emphasizing the importance of preparation, vigilance, and understanding the unpredictable nature of the sea. Even the most experienced sailors, equipped with the best technology, are not immune to the dangers of the ocean. The boat, in its pristine yet eerie emptiness, highlights how fragile the line between safety and disaster can be. Since its discovery, the Cas too has captured the public's imagination. Documentaries, books, and articles have explored its mystery, offering theories and speculation, but no concrete answers. The story continues to intrigue maritime historians and mystery enthusiasts alike, becoming a ghost ship drifting through the annals of nautical history. Even in an era of satellite tracking and advanced underwater exploration, the question remains: could modern technology ever solve the mystery of the Cas too? While the boat itself has been thoroughly examined, the vast waters surrounding the Great Barrier Reef remain largely uncharted. New advances in sonar mapping and autonomous underwater vehicles, AUVs, might provide fresh insights into the area, uncovering clues that have remained hidden for over a decade. Additionally, modern data analysis techniques could be used to examine GPS logs and weather data from the time of the disappearance, offering a more detailed picture of the events leading up to April 18, 2007. These tools might reveal a pattern or anomaly that has been overlooked, but even with these advancements, the ocean remains a powerful and mysterious force.